Council. All right, we will call Committee of the Whole to order. I know Councilman Evans said he was going to be running a little behind, so we expect him to join us. Okay, so we made those changes, right, in the Committee of the Whole notes. I see. Okay, yep. All right, Daniel's giving me a nod. So, all right. So first, I will move to approve the. Sorry, I'm pulling up my thing as I'm making the motion, which is not the best way to do it. Move to approve the minutes of the July 7th Committee of the Whole meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. Then I'll move to approve the minutes of the July 14th meeting without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. Okay, so now on to the main business, which is we have the report from the Charter Review Commission. We started talking about this previous Committee of the Whole meeting and asked the Law Department to start drafting some of those recommendations, which I believe you all received via email. As we're working through that, in some of our conversation last week, so just as a reminder, some of the ones that we're talking about, so that would be the that's okay. There's a recommendation for a charter amendment regarding salaries, regarding the vacancy process, regarding ranked choice voting, regarding redistricting of the wards, and also the enactment of ordinances and resolutions, which is a very sort of minor one regarding not having to remove the entire chapter and replace it, essentially. So with each of those last Committee of the Whole, when we were talking about the charter, we mostly talked about ranked choice voting and what it is, how it works, and how it could work for Lakewood. So we also talked about last time that if we wanted to get these on this November's ballot, they would need to be either docketed at tonight's full council meeting, and then we'd have to have committee meetings for them to have the 3 readings and be passed at the first meeting in September. So you'll note that on the full council docket, they did not submit them for the docket, and part of that is because I felt like we still had more work to do on these and conversation to be had before they're ready for prime time, and I didn't want to put something out there as we're getting ready to change our highest level document for the land without actually being prepared to do that. So I wanted to come back to tonight to talk a little bit about process. My feeling is that we continue to work on these this next throughout the fall, this next year, and we try to get them on the ballot for the 2026 election cycle. And there's a few reasons for that. One is that most of these are related to the ones that are related to municipal elections. If they're on the 2026 ballot or the 2025 ballot, regardless, they wouldn't affect things until the 2027 municipal election. So it doesn't essentially do any harm to have more time to work on these, as well as to potentially educate the public should we move forward with something like ranked choice voting, which I think a lot of folks would have questions about. That gives more time for us to have those conversations with the public. And regardless whether we did it this year or in 2026, wouldn't affect things until the 2027 municipal election. And some of the questions, like Councilmember Bullock mentioned about which ranked choice voting system we would use, some of those other questions, as well as what's happening in the State House, we would potentially have answered by then. Some of the other ones regarding the ward redistricting is the way it was referred by the Charter Review Commission, is set to take place after the next census. So again, whether we do it in 2025 or 2026, it doesn't really change that either. So I'll pause there and allow other folks to chime in with their thoughts. Question points, Councilwoman Stubing.
Thank you. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. There's no real rush to get this done. A lot of this stuff really needs to go be gone over and over again. Other than the manner of amending legislation, which I thought sounded like crossing T's and dotting I's, I don't know if there'd be a lot there, so maybe that might be a low-hanging fruit if we wanted to move on anything sooner than later. But yeah, I think that that's a great idea. Thank you.
Councilperson Hamilton Steiner.
Thank you, President Keppel. Yes, I agree with everything that you're saying. It makes sense. It's better to get it right than to get something forward to voters and then have to do the work of educating voters, informing voters, aside from the ranked choice voting, just what they're going to be voting on and what this means. And we want to give them time to digest everything because we're changing our city's document and how we operate. So we definitely want to make sure that they have plenty of time to digest everything. So I do have just a couple of questions. Would it be in the May election or would it be a November 2026 election that we would potentially put this forward to voters? And then I have a second question. So I don't know if you want to answer that first and then I can come back to my other question.
I mean, we would have time to do either. I guess I would lean towards, and I could be convinced otherwise, but it seems to me that it's the most democratic to do it when there are the most voters, which would likely be the November election. But that's, unless other people have strong feelings, but that would make sense to me. Vice President Baker.
Yeah, just to that narrow point, yeah, I think it makes sense to have it in November, although whenever the primary is, that also has, but I think you generally get more voters in a November election, so, and it'll be a midterm year, so I think you probably want more people and more people aware that something is on the ballot.
And then the other question, I guess, is just, as you had mentioned, process. So what is the best way to move forward process? Is this something where maybe a couple council members would take the charge, take the lead, and maybe work closely with legal to get this hammered out? They can go back to Charter Review Commission members for questions, things like that. So maybe we can talk a little bit about process and how we should work that so that we can keep it moving forward and make sure that we do get this in front of voters.
I think that's a good idea. We could even sort of divide them up if we want, where a couple council members could work on each one. I did also have the thought that these could all be referred to Rules and Ordinances Committee. For once, there's actually something that could go there. Yeah, the Lakefront SID was the last thing there. Yeah, I think there was one thing referred there the entire time I was chairing it as well. So, and only because I referred it. So, so that is a thought too. But other Councilwoman Marks.
I do think it's also a good idea to defer it. I think it gives us adequate time to educate the public on what we're looking to change, but also to educate the public on how important our charter is. I mean, I don't think a lot of people know that we even have a charter or what the charter stands for. And as far as dividing things up, I think it's best if we do it as a committee of the whole, so we're all hearing everybody's concerns and questions, and we come to a decision through a majority.
Sure. I guess what I was thinking in terms of that would be more, we have the drafted ordinances that the law department started working on, but in terms of if a council member wanted to, work with them or work on substitutes or something like that. So sometimes can be hard to do with all 7 of us up here, but and then bring that back to us to to discuss on the floor for sure. We would certainly want to have most of that conversation. And
I also think holding public meetings too, so the public can be involved.
Oh,
is
yeah.
very important.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think delaying it and managing it properly is in all of our best interest.
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely want everyone to have the opportunity to know that we're doing it and have their input for sure. Other council members? See ya. Nope. Good. Vice President Baker.
Thank you, Chair. And the one thing I'll say is I think one thing I wanted us to do, and I think we're going along this path, is show respect and fidelity to the Charter Review Commission, who put a lot of time and good effort into coming up with recommendations. So process-wise, am I going to agree with every one of them putting on the ballot? I don't know, but I think we owe it to them to put them as an ordinance and discuss them and fully vet them on the floor and decide what we want to do. So I think that's step one, and then the next step is timing, and I agree with what the chair said, and then others have reflected that, you know, between now and November, 3 of us up here are going to be, you know, or 4 campaigning as well. So I think it's going to take council members and the administration kind of like educating the public, and we'll also be busy this fall. So I think that, and then also you'll get more voters next fall, which would be good. So I like the process we're outlining here, and I look forward to diving into these issues and educating the voters about them should we pass them.
Thank you. Any other council members? Councilman Bullock? Nothing?
Sure. Thanks, Madam Chair. I agree with the approach. Thank you. And, you know, I do agree with continuing the deliberation on the various proposals. I tend to agree also with Councilwoman Strebig's point that the ministerial reform proposed in the one we could consider for this year with no particular difficulty or harm. And that was the one related to, let's see if I can summarize it correctly. Enactment of ordinances and resolutions. So that would be the one exception. I don't feel strongly, but I thought it was a good point that Councilman Strebig raised. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Vargo?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just 2 quick points. The one charter amendment proposed that Councilman Bullock just mentioned was proposed by the Law Department. We're certainly okay waiting with the others. Not a big deal. For efficiency, we can wait on that. Number 2, Ms. Swallow and I were researching this week because we didn't know the timing. And we did a lot. There's not a lot of examples out there, including throughout the country, but to support council's inclination to wait and deliberate more on this, we can tell you that in one county in Oregon, Benton County, it was proposed and the charter was amended, and there was pretty good lead up to that. But even after the charter was amended, the first election that they were able to get up to speed and use it on because of the public education that was required, because of the software upgrade that was required, was in between 3 and 4 years later. So your decision to deliberate further is very consistent with the history that we're seeing in our research. Thank you.
That regarding ranked choice voting, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for doing that research. I know we for drafting these as well. It's always, I think, easier to edit than it is to create. So getting something started is helpful, and then we can work on these as well. And I appreciate the flexibility with the enactment of ordinances and resolutions. I remember, I believe you saying when we first discussed this about the Law Department wasn't suggesting, like, if this was the only thing, we wouldn't go to the ballot for it, but if we're going to the ballot anyway, might as well throw it on. So, and that makes sense to me too, because one of the education efforts, you know, is just explaining to people what a charter is and why they're voting on it. So if we're doing that anyway on others, rather than doing it this year and next year, would make sense to me. Councilman Hamilton Steiner.
Thank you. So I just wanted to piggyback off what Director Vargo was saying and appreciate the research that is being done, but also so that our residents that are supportive of ranked choice voting and our folks and our friends from Rank the Vote Ohio and Rank the Vote Lakewood don't feel discouraged that we're not opposed to ranked choice voting. It's just either way, if we were to get something onto the ballot this November and let's say residents overwhelmingly passed it, it would still be a few years out until it's actually enacted. So actually holding, holding this off to deliberate further, to engage more with the public, to educate, and to better inform ourselves is prudent, I think, and wise to do that, considering that we would still be potentially 3 to 4 years from actually being able to implement it, and it would align directly potentially with a 2027 election. That's if we can get everything. So we'd be on the earlier side of that if we can get there. But so I just appreciate that point by Director Vargo.
Thank you. Yes, and I will reiterate that as well, that I'll speak for myself, that part of this is also out of support for ranked choice voting and wanting to make sure that it succeeds in Lakewood. So I'll say that for myself and let everyone else, but I'm wanting to make sure that we are successful when we go. All right. With that, any further comments or discussion from council members? We do have Mr. Bindle. Did you want to speak? I know you're signed in.
Just briefly, Chris Bindle, 1212 Hathaway. I completely agree with, understand what you're doing. As someone who's lived in Lakewood my entire life and followed council for a long time, I'd rather see things done correctly than hastily, and I appreciate you taking the time and making sure that we don't rush this. Knowing that many of you do support this and want to see it happen, I understand that you are doing what we need to do to make sure this happens. Your point about the 2027 election being the first time it would be needed anyways makes sense as to why we put this off for a little bit. So thank you, and I appreciate it, and feel free to contact me for any reason regarding this, and please help us keep educating the public. So thank you.
We have anyone else signed in to speak, or anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, great. Well, I guess we'll keep working on. In terms of process, so we can keep doing this in committee of the whole. It sounds like there's potentially a desire to do that. So all 7 of us are involved in the discussions. So we'll start plugging away with that. We may, now that we know, there seems to be consensus for, well, there is, because we can't get it on the ballot unless we come back. So, but for next year, so if we're looking towards November of 2026, we probably, because the rest of this year will probably be mostly tied up with City Hall and budget meetings. A lot of the fall will be tied up with both of those things, plus other committee meetings. So since we have the time now, we probably will come back to this in the new year, would be my guess. All right, good. All right, any further comments from administration? All right, well, no further business before committee of the whole. Without objection, we are adjourned.
So for those here, we'll start at 6:30, which is the publicly noticed time for the next committee meeting. But we have to wait 7 minutes. Thanks. We are now at, and in fact, beyond 6:30. So let's call to order the meeting of the Finance Committee on Monday, July 21st. I'd like to turn to the first item on the agenda, which is to approve the meeting minutes. And I should also say all members of the committee are present, as are all members of council. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the May 5th Finance Committee meeting?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. We've got an hour. I'd like to reserve the bulk of the time for the third agenda item, which is communication from Assistant Director Boss, who is right here in front of us, regarding Winterhurst Capital Projects update. But first, let's dispose of what I think will be a short deliberation on proposed ordinance 21-2025, which is the third? Yes, it's the proposed third quarter transfers and advances, which is really a rather ministerial budgetary piece of legislation. So council members, unless there's any preliminary comments, I'd like to call upon Director Mahoney to walk us through the proposed ordinance. Director Mahoney.
Sure, thanks. So this has already been approved as part of the 2025 budget. This is just one quarter of the already approved total transfers, as you can see in the ordinance, from general fund to aging in Winterhurst, and then from wastewater treatment to debt service and wastewater treatment to just between the two wastewater treatment funds. Again, like I said, this is pretty much just administrative, already approved in the budget. So if anyone has any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Director. So in this case, we do not have advances that may come in the fourth quarter version of this proposal. As a refresher of our memory, transfers is for plain English terms, a grant of funds from one account to another or one fund to another. An advance is a timing differential, so often at the end of a fiscal year, we'll loan temporarily cash from one account to another, usually for a purpose related to it, such as health insurance or similar matters, or it might be a construction project that is extending into the following calendar year. But we're not talking about that. So this is really a transfers ordinance, and I think what the director is referring to is that the proposed ordinance is not yet approved, but the proposed budget numbers are conforming to the fiscal year 2025 budget. We anticipated making these allocations. So from the general fund, Office on Aging would receive, if we were to pass this, $225,000. Winterhurst would receive $100,000, and then debt service payment transfers include wastewater treatment, it's TP, wastewater treatment plant improvements fund, $500,000 to the debt service fund, and then another $325,000 to the wastewater treatment plant. Those are some long-standing means by which we've financed debt. So with that, I don't have any questions beyond what's in front of us. Do open the discussion up to council members? Councilman Striebeck?
Sure. Just to clarify for my beginner knowledge of finance, the debt service payments are payments that we're making on improvements that have already happened.
That's, or ongoing, and
Ongoing.
we have taken the money out, and these are, yes, payments back. Yes. Not necessarily completed, but the funds have been secured, and now we're paying them back. That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so every time we do this, it makes me think it's like and I'm trying to equate it to like a household budget, right? So if you have a home and you or say you have a rental property, I guess, which is later tonight, we'll talk a little bit about, but normally you just pay it out of your money, right, your mortgage payment. But in this instance, we issued bonds against our future revenue from wastewater, sewer fees or water fees. And so as those revenues come in, they go in one account, right? That is the enterprise fund for water or sewer. And we can't, because of public accounting rules or whatever, just pay from that account. We have to move it to the debt service account in order to pay the creditors from that. So it's simply, and that's so that I think public accounting sets it up that way so that there's certain funds dedicated to certain things. You can only spend certain money on capital, that's improvements, that's infrastructure. There's some money that's a little bit more fungible, you can spend on capital or operating. So these funds all do that type of thing. Am I explaining this correctly
Yes,
as a layman?
yes, that's correct,
Okay. So we have to do this to put money into the account to pay the creditor, but technically the creditor can't get the enterprise account. They can only get the debt service account, something like that. Yeah.
Yes. Good explanation.
Yeah, that's a good reminder. Thank you, Mr. Baker. So in many ways, this is internal accounting. For some years, the city of Lakewood has done, we've been audited by the state as part of our routine practices, best practices for some years. And in the last 8-10 years, I think we've earned top marks. So we've
Even longer than that, I believe, yes.
yeah. So we continue to follow these procedures. Okay, unless there are any other questions, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to the full council for adoption proposed ordinance 21-2025.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Now on to the third item, which is the communication from Assistant Director Boss regarding Winterhurst Capital Projects update, which came to us a little more than a month ago. On our docket tonight is not only slides, but I believe the original communication, which I'm calling it up so I can refer to it right here. Mr. Boss back in June said to us, dear members of council, has requested an update on the progress and upcoming projects associated with Winterhurst Capital Plan is provided to you for information in conjunction with information provided by the Finance Department on funding and transfers involved in the Winterhurst account. And this is this is for several reasons. First, it's a big expense. Second, in recent years, the last 4 years, Dave, we've taken a new approach to the management and investment and improvement in and of that facility. So there's a lot happening. It's been making improvements that are noticeable. I've heard positive reviews from users there, although I am not a hockey parent, so I don't hear everything, but from what I've heard and experienced myself, it's all been positive. But I think the spirit of tonight is to make sure City Council knows what's happening, what's on deck, and also has the opportunity to ask important questions related to something that's so significant in cost. In many ways, we could liken Winterhurst Ice Arena to a Lakewood pool. One of the parks at the pool gets a lot of use. It gets involves a lot of expense and planning. When it's well managed and run and cared for, it's a major feature and service of and to our community. And I know for sure we get a lot of outside visitors from all over the region and state to Winterhurst. It's on the highway. We always talk about how we could advertise. Maybe there's a Las Vegas style sign in one of the slides that we're going to erect on the highway. We'll find out. But so that's the overview. I think beyond that, on my end, I don't have any particular specific point I'm driving at other than I'm eager to hear the update. But before Mr. Boss gives us the presentation, council members, any questions on your mind, or you want to introduce? Nope.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And if you look at the first slide, it talks about the investments we've made, and I applaud the administration for, it's always one of those things where if you have a private party in a public facility, there's a little bit of, it's hard to be transparent. But the model they picked was more of a management services model for the operator, which allows more visibility between the city and I'm sure Assistant Director Boss will get into this, but also we've invested over $5 million into the facility, or intend to, and part of it was hearing that update for ourselves, but also for the community. You know, I know it's been before Planning Commission, it's gone through different approvals, but I think it's just nice for the community to see where some of our resources are going. And also folks that use Warren have noticed some trees going down, so I assume some construction is going to start, so I assume we're going to hear about that. So I thank Assistant Director Boss for putting this together and leading us through it.
Thank you for asking about the trees, and also my kids will want to know about the organ. So with that, Mr. Boss, why don't you go ahead and share your update.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone's giving me the time just to kind of walk you through this update. I'll start broadly just with the capital plan and kind of that long 30,000-foot view. I'll talk a little bit about programming and finance, kind of aside, and then I'll jump back in to kind of the stuff that's before us. So I'll pause it kind of after each of those. We can talk about if you have questions, so I'm not just going through it straight. But I did want to provide that really kind of broad view of where we've been, where we're going. So this starts in 2023, and the summer of 2023. It was actually the 1st of July was the date that I think that was actually the kind of the biggest breaking point between the ending the lease with Iceland and starting under our new management model, which with myself as the city representative, working with the new management team of Lakewood Community Ice that actually operates the building on a day-to-day basis. But we have weekly meeting. We have a weekly meeting, a touch point on operations, on construction, and everything. And so it is it's a city-driven, collaborative effort towards making this facility the premier rink in the Cleveland region. That's kind of our intent and vision. So the different phases on the left side, you know, and that's where that black line, they're kind of working top to bottom, left to right on the timeline. And those years are broken up by winter, spring, summer, fall. And then the dark bands indicate your heavy season for figure skating, speed skating, ice hockey, and the building, and how we've tried to structure these projects kind of in and around the heavier use and the op tempo of the building. So the reopening had an awful lot of work that went in initially. We then went into the ice plant and the mechanical upgrades, kind of, you know, the back of house, the backbone of the building, the thing that you cannot afford to have fail. We did that replacement up front before kind of moving into the more customer public-facing functional upgrades as we work our way through. All of these phased upgrades have all been informed by that 2022 building assessment that the city did. We had two different engineering firms that came through, one that looked at the building as a whole, one that looked at the ice system independently, looked at the history of the building, the plans, and then evaluated each of those components and kind of the different systems within the building, their ages, where they were, when they needed to be replaced. And that really formed kind of the backbone of the initial capital plan that we then took kind of a new look at when Lakewood Community Ice came on, reprioritized some things, shifted around, and we've been constantly kind of updating the budget, scope of work on each of these things as we worked our way through. But you can see kind of where we're at, and that red line actually should be probably a little bit further. It's right between like the light green mobilization and the dark green build, because that's exactly where we're at right now with the locker room addition and rink renovation. And I'll get more into that as we get down the road. But the thing that concurrently as that's getting started, what we're working on with Train right now, who's the city's contract rep for HVAC, they're starting to work on a scope and kind of a time frame and potentially a phasing replacement of all of the HVAC equipment that is also, some of it is approaching 50 years old. Some of it's 30 years old, some of the main units on the roof, and that is no insignificant effort. in and of itself. Some of those dehumidifiers and the mutters units on the roof are custom made, and they have long lead times, and so that's all of this is kind of runs concurrent with each other in these lines, and that's something that we will be, the intent is to bring that scope and updated as cost estimate into the 2026 budget cycle. Because we have an amount that's aligned against that, and that's what we're working on right now, that 1.2 million that's down there. But until I get a final cost and a kind of a scope, and whether or not we need to break it up between 2 years or something, that kind of that how you program that funding and how you and implement it between the seasons, that's the next step of that HVAC piece. And then the metal roof I can talk about a little bit. That's something I'm working with Public Works. But in terms of the preventative maintenance and the upkeep of that standing seam piece, to the south and north facing standing seam roofs are the only pieces, really the only roof component on the entire building that hasn't been replaced in the last 10 years. So,
Mr. Boss, before you move on,
Yep.
I find this helpful to me, starting big and then going specific. So this, right now, is this a map of all the categories of work and the best current estimates of cost that we envision, albeit you just explained the roof is a kind of a little bit over the horizon with no cost estimates. So we did the reopening with that cost of $441,500. We're in the midst of, no, we just completed the ice mechanical for 2.1, so we're up to 2.5 million. We're looking at another 4.1
4.1, 4.2.
4.2 over the next 12 months. And then after that, another 1.2. So that gets us to 2.5 plus 4.2 plus 1.2 is, somebody help me, my middle son could do this. Something like 8 million. So that's about the ballpark of a pool, arguably. But at any rate, so that, A, that's helpful. B, that gives us a sense of how the administration has staged the layers of work. And quickly, I want to interject. I do recall a major feature of the 2008, 9, 10 operator agreement was that they brought $1 million in capital to invest in HVAC and other stuff. I thought it was largely HVAC. Is that reflected in what you understand about?
So I can point out what Iceland did provide for that, and part of that is some of the HVAC issues that we're having to fix is part of that. They basically provided 2 high school locker rooms, which I'll point out to you, and then the supporting HVAC system, which is
For some of the accessory parts of the building, but not the main.
It was not part of the main facility, and then they shifted the entry point from Lakewood Heights to the parking lot side. That was kind of the main crux of their. I can show that on the site plan.
Okay.
Of
And
their
then I remember
investment.
there were like dripping and fogging issues at the time, and I don't know if those ever fully gone away, but I was under the impression that they got improved at least. Okay, enough on that. I just wanted to flag that.
All right.
Okay, please, thank you. Proceed.
So just 2 slides about, this is about programming, and the next slide is about the finances. So everything with our programming is trending very extremely positive, I will say. So Lakewood Community Ice they're very proficient, very heavy in terms of their programmatic footprint and expertise. The instructors that we have, we've now, and this year is the first year that we really have a fully contracted Learn to Skate piece that comes in, and that's really kind of an offshoot of the Lakewood or the Winterhurst Figure Skating Club. The same kind of people do our Learn to Skate program, which is it's kind of sport agnostic, but it's that entry level. And so these registrations are almost twice what we've had in previous years. And the number of hours you can see between last season and what we're projecting for this season are just going to continue to grow as we get into it. One of the best things that we've started this year was a Learn to Play for hockey, not only growing the Learn to Skate program and that offering a summer session and additional sessions, but the Mini Monsters, the partnership with the Cleveland Monsters, really exceeded expectations. We capped it at 60. There was 2 sessions at 60 kids, and you can see we exceeded that and actually brought in more kids. That program is popular enough that the Monsters wanted to expand it, and they're actually doing it at Cleveland Heights an east side location this year. So that's going to continue to grow, and it'll continue to grow at Winterhurst as well as we can accommodate more and more kids into that program. So programming is trending up, and you can see the public open skates and those other things. They are continue to be locked in. It's not something that's going to be compromised by other entities coming in, which was part of the problem prior to 2023. Was that just that public opportunities, open skates, and those other kind of the drop-in hockey, parent Todd hockey, those things that were open to anybody were really squeezed to the side, and they almost became, they were non-existent pretty much in our last year there. And so that is something that's the first thing that gets scheduled. When you really do the ice almost annually, an annual projection of that, and so that, like those 250 hours, 120 sessions are already built into the calendar. So like they're already starting like now, Friday nights, there's a Friday night skate. And so it should only be trending upwards as we go onwards.
Good. Sure. Thank you for that, Assistant Director Ross. And that brought to my mind, it was like a flashback to middle school, because there used to be a Friday night skate. I assume we're publicizing that, and I assume we're publicizing it with the schools, because I could see that being like a teenager place.
We try. I mean, we try to do outreach as much as possible through the city's social media. I do send it through like the district's rec and community activities representatives. So we're trying to get it out as much as possible as we can. So, and they have been, say, fairly popular every time we go on there, and we have a. So it's going to take some time, I think, for a lot of that stuff. But I know that our program rep with LCI intends this year to do more outreach directly to the district on additional opportunities, with individual schools and parties and stuff like that, that schools can host events at Winterhurst. That's all. It's just that you keep going down layers and layers as you can work your way into the district and other customer bases. But that's something that we do intend to try to grow that audience and make it maybe bring it back or keep it as a place where kids go on Fridays and during the weekend. So.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you very much. This is very helpful. When we see these projections and these increases, do we have any type of a breakdown as far as Lakewood residents versus the area? I'm wondering, when we're seeing projections and these increases, and this is great, and hearing also that it's going to expand to an east side location in Cleveland Heights. It's all wonderful. I'm just wondering are the Lakewood residents getting the benefits of this as much as Westlake, Bay Village, Rocky River?
I would hope so. I can't force people to go, but we do. We try to advertise as much in Lakewood. I don't know if our point of sale data has that I could pull zip codes or because I don't think people are given their addresses when they register for Open Skate. But it is something that I just, out of my own self, I do track for like our Winterhurst hockey registrations. I can get that data, and I track the number of kids that are from 44107 versus like Avon Lake, and it's something that I try to take a very active role in trying to get kids from Lakewood into Learn to Skate, into Learn to Play, just that base of the triangle that we try to grow. And so the Mini Monsters program, we advertise that, from what I remember, like very heavily through the schools and trying to get those kids from age 4 to 8 to join that program. In fact, they even had scholarships for kids this year, so it was basically free for those kids to join. But again, I can't, maybe I can get Russ to go around on like a tour of the school or something and try to get kids more excited about it this year. But
I guess I'm just wondering is when they come in for these open skates, is there a benefit for Lakewood residents specifically? Is it? I don't know what the cost is. If it's $1 for Lakewood residents and $2 for folks that don't live here.
We don't have a price differential right now between residents and non-residents because it isn't like, again, it's not something that we track when people come in. But I mean, you have Lakewood Speed Skating, which is heavily based with Lakewood residents. You have Lakewood Figure Skating Club, which has Lakewood. Like the clubs all have Lakewood residents in them. What proportion, I don't know. But it's, we really try to get people from the community to come in as much as we can through advertising via social, schools, everything that we can think of. But
Thank you.
Will we propose a puck tax or a blade fee or something? We don't have to do that. No, I'm joking around. It's good to hear the vibrancy and the increasing numbers and the investment of time and effort and marketing focus in the core of, or I should say, the beginning stages of getting, young people there. Any other questions, or can we allow them to proceed? Okay, here we go. Oh, sorry, Angelina. Councilman Hamilton Steiner.
Thank you, Chair Bullock. So just for my own knowledge, when you say we, Assistant Director Boss, you mean the city is managing the registrations, programming, outreach, all of that? It's not like through the Rock Center, it's us.
it's us.
Okay.
So so the city oversees the rink. All of the programming, the registrations and everything
that.
all go
Okay.
through our point of sale software at Winterhurst. So if you go to winterhurstice.com, the registrations are all
Okay.
on that site. Yeah, so it doesn't touch the rec, and it's something I'm going to continue to work on.
Yeah,
because it
yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
We intended from the fall of '23. I've been working to get our programming notes into their rec bulletin, and for whatever reason, it just hadn't happened yet.
Okay.
So
No, that again, that was just for me. I was assuming when you said we that it was us, but I just wasn't sure who the we was. And so I'm excited about this because growing up in Lakewood, Winterhurst was the place to be on for like Friday nights. Kyle, you didn't, or Vice President Baker, you didn't hang out at Winterhurst?
I skated poorly there on Friday nights.
Yeah. So, but I necessarily wasn't because it was also parents would drop their kids off, and I was not necessarily allowed to experience that side of Lakewood growing up. So, but I do know it was a hangout spot on Friday nights, Saturday nights, and I think it is starting to be that, but not as much. So I definitely think getting information out into the schools and everything about that. But I also think as far as hockey, we do have to also recognize that there is a barrier, an economic barrier that exists. As for youngsters that want to get into hockey, it's the startup cost and everything else. It's pretty pricey. So I'm not sure if there's some ways that perhaps we can address economic barriers that may exist, like families that are interested in hockey, but that financial barrier is just too much for them. So maybe we'd have more Lakewood kids that would be involved in hockey. It's a huge sport, and I know that there's a need. So I'm sure that we have a lot of folks from outside 44107 using the facilities because there aren't too many hockey facilities that are out there. A lot of other school districts that have hockey teams don't necessarily have practice facilities or places to play their games. So we can definitely use that leverage and have that angle as far as to help with some of the inflow of cash and, to help with the cash flow. But as far as our Lakewood residents, I think we may need to, if we want to increase and grow hockey programs, if we want to increase access, we need to start looking at perhaps some of those barriers that might exist.
I will say, Councilmember, so for the Mini Monsters as an example, so not only did we offer scholarships, that those 60 spots were fully paid for the people that registered, but every kid got a full set of equipment, and that was theirs to keep through the entire program. We work really hard at Winterhurst Hockey Club, for the youth club. We've had, say 2 years ago when I coached my last year of Pee Wee, we accepted a whole lot of kids that came in, and they came in from Cleveland, actually from Halloran, because the Halloran rink was closed down. We will take anybody who wants to play hockey and figure out a way to make them part of the club and get them. We have enough equipment and things to share. There's skates. We will find kids just to your point, I recognize that breaking down the barriers, the costs, and the entries, and it's why we design these programs the way that we do, and now why they're so popular, that someone like Cleveland Heights is jumping up and down to get that same program for similar populations and similar demographics. And so I take your point, and we continue to work on it.
No, I'm excited about that. So maybe we can just work on a little bit some of that marketing and how do we fit? Yeah.
Beat the feet in the neighborhoods or
Yep,
something.
yep. Hit the streets and canvas. We can get there. So okay, thank you so much.
Councilwoman Striebeck.
Thank you. And I was part of the CREC meeting, oh gosh, was that last week or 2 weeks ago, when they were talking about their fall and winter brochure going out. And specifically looked at me to say, we have 2 pages for the city to use. And I said, okay, great. I'm not sure what they're using now or what kind of information that the city is sending out. But I'm quite sure that bulletin is going to everybody's house in the entire city. So, and fortunately enough, they'll be here this evening to be recognized at the full council meeting if you want to have a conversation with them about using that.
We're going to keep working on it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
Apparently, so Councilman Striebeck is the heavy that can make it so. I also know that Director Walter, he's a former Garfield Middle School principal, so to Councilman Baker's point, there's probably a network of teachers who can help to turbo boost this. But anyway, count us in for facilitating. All right, so we've got a bunch of slides still to go. Maybe want to charge ahead.
Programming is always like the most popular thing, and it is something that Lakewood Community Ice was by heads and tails the strongest programmatically. It's why we selected them to work with, and they continue to just exceed our expectations. Just wanted to show you real quick profit and loss, kind of picking up from last year. The top line, that's all of 2024, and then the bottom is the months up through June. Just to show you that kind of, fortunately, unfortunately, we've had shutdowns the last 2 years, which is not typical of Winterhurst. Winterhurst usually operates year-round. Place like Rocky River, other rinks, they pull their ice in the spring and the summer because they do rec programming in that space when they don't have ice. We've had to shut down for maintenance and other reasons, and so you just to show you that kind of black to red dip that we've experienced each year. But we did, successfully come out of the dip at the end of the year. You see the totals for 2024. We ended with $144,000 in the black. That excess and that it kind of goes into an operational or capital reserve that's managed between LCI and the city. That helps us get through the next dip, if that makes sense, in terms of the shutdown. Shutdown was a little bit longer this year than it was last year. But we are starting to come back out of it. You can see the total there. We're still 19,000 in the red. That will be black once we add July to it, and that the programming really in June and July was where it started back up again. You can see that in terms of the gross profit and total expenses. Once you get into that season, you're into 6 figures, and that's what you kind of make your money for the rest of that year when it dips back down in the spring. And before the season starts in the fall.
For the record, the shutdown is what? Because of
the shutdown last year was for the change out of the mechanical system for the ice. The shutdown this year, and I'll show you, was to fix a heaving issue in the floor that we had with the new system. That was we found a spot that didn't have insulation on the lines anymore.
a partial or total shutdowns?
It was every time you shut the whole, it's a total shutdown. We can't. Winterhurst does not have the ability to shut one rink down.
Okay.
It's one system.
But you were shut down from April 1 through June 30, or for part of it? Because otherwise, how did you get revenue?
We were shut down from basically like the end of the first week in April through the first week of June.
Okay, understood.
Right. So May was the heavy month, and a lot of that dip, the depths of that dip is the expense, the additional expenses that come with. We did an awful lot, and I'll show you the maintenance that went into just the typical maintenance of the boards. They rebuilt all of the benches on both rinks this year, things that we didn't do last year that needed to get done this year. And so a lot of those, it's not with the general contractor for the locker rooms, but it's with our maintenance and our operations team guys actually tearing the benches apart and doing that work.
Yeah, now, Assistant Director, is this this is just operating, right? This isn't capital?
This is just operating.
Okay, thank you.
But some of that's cleaning or extra labor to do that?
Yeah, it's all managed by Lakewood Community Ice.
Okay.
Within their personal expenses.
Okay, very good.
Great. So I will move on, and then we'll talk about the locker room and rink space renovation. I'll try to get through these just conscious of time so we can still have some dialogue and questions. But the three main goals for this project that we've worked since the inception of this, we knew we needed to reconfigure and renovate the existing locker room spaces. Those were original 1950s locker rooms. I'll show you. One of them had been subsumed by, you have to have an officials and a referee's room, so we lost a locker room. And then with the growth of the game, we needed the ability to have interchangeable co-ed locker rooms, and that's just something that the facility was not contemplated for, never set up for. When you got 8 50-year-old locker rooms, 1 toilet, and basically one shower area that serves all of those. The second thing that we're trying to address is to get an indoor off-ice training space for all of our athletes and their teams. Whether you're a figure skater, a speed skater, or whatnot, if you are trying to warm up for a competition, you're doing it in the minuscule areas, the corners of the rink, or you're going out into the parking lot, which when you have a fully run 8-team or 15-team tournament, hockey tournament on the weekends, you do not want Pee-wee kids running laps around the parking lot when hundreds of parents are trying to come in and out for the next game. So getting them an off-ice space is really important. It also allows us to expand kind of the professionalism, the approach of the facility through potentially pulling in physical therapy and additional strength training kind of assets and services that can come into the building.
Does that look like a gym or another ice rink or what?
I'll show you,
Okay.
Councilman, in a minute. And then we needed to replace the existing spectator stands with ADA accessible contemporary design. Big piece. Those stands were 50 years old, had mold issues, and a whole bunch of other things. While we were doing that, we had to repair the frost heaving issue that became apparent after the mechanical system was replaced. And we took the opportunity and NOPEC's money to buy new video scoreboards. And it really a new system for parents, which is light years ahead of what they were using before. So this is the heaving that we experienced. So this is the path that runs between the rinks and the mechanical area, kind of on the east side of the building and the back of the building. If you were to go in where the scoreboards were, so that it's usually typically only used by athletes, but this is where your main supply and return lines for the cooling system run. And it's really only that space of about 6 feet that those lines aren't either insulated or heated through the subfloor heating system. So what we found out when we kicked on the new system was that there is an awful lot of groundwater that runs along the slate bedrock or whatever underneath that building. It tends to pool right in this location. And so it would freeze, it would heave, more water would come in, freeze, heave. And so what was happening was the whole center piece of that walkway was being raised, and it started to pick up the boards on either rink. And it was actually, if you're familiar with how the center section's open in that rink, it was picking up the entire section of the corner of the boards that lifts off. And so it's causing an awful lot of problems. And so we did have to shut the system down, dig it out. They found a whole bunch of other issues, which we always do in a 50-year-old building when you start digging in the concrete, that we were able to fix those two tops on the right there. Those are your valve boxes that you can bleed air out of the cooling system. For some reason, at some point, somebody decided to concrete over those guys, like you didn't need to bleed air out of the system. So we fixed that. We now have new junction boxes. We have a new sub pump, which is in that the circular access port there. So it should keep water drained out of that area when it comes in. But it was very important to fix this issue before it did any further damage to the rest of the rink. Here's the new scoreboards. They are high definition LED boards. Again, they were paid for by NOPEC. And then we also ended up getting, you can see in the kind of middle bottom picture, we got some repeater, like kind of standard they're LED boards, but they're just like a standard scoreboard on the opposite side of the rink. And then you can see the new control system. So the old control system in the bottom left was like a 1990s, like when I was in travel baseball and you're like hitting like a sequence of buttons to change something. It was impossible. No parent wanted to do that because no one wanted to be the one that screwed up penalty minutes or the score or the buzzer would go off. So the new system is called an edge controller. It's basically, it's an iPad. It's a hardened iPad in a metal box. And so it's basically a replication of the scoreboard, and you just hit buttons to increase the score, bring up a penalty. It is night and day over the system that we had there, but it's basically contemporary technology. And the video boards we can replicate. They can come up with any kind of scoreboard template. You can play video. You can do all kinds of things. And so we have teams like Lakewood High School, EDS, all these groups are just chomping at the bit to come up with these like hype videos and stuff for their teams. But open skates, public skates, all these things, it's something that they're going to start doing theme nights where they can show movies. They can do a lot of things for the public events as well with these scoreboards. And they've got them moving now with like, there's like motion stuff. It's pretty cool over the summer. So now I'm getting into kind of the new project. So one of the first things that had to come out was those stands. The way that we've phased this project, we're basically, and this was something that Rogers Incorporated is the general contractor. They're the ones that they specialize in rinks and ice arenas and construction. And then the architect of record for the project is a man named Robert Andrus. He specializes exclusively in ice rinks. Very strong GC package for this design build. They came in and they phased it so that the rink could continue to operate throughout the entire construction project, which is very important from a bottom line standpoint. It's very important from just a public standpoint of where the facility is not going to be closed. So the first thing that came out were the stands. It's really the only inconvenience that people are going to have to put up with for next season is that there's not going to be stands. The stands were the first out and last in, and it's so that we have 10 temporary locker rooms now in Rink 1. That allows the GC to basically wall off the outside of the rink, do everything he needs to do to build the addition, and then once those new locker rooms are ready, he can open them up, everybody can transition to the new locker rooms, then we'll tear these things down, and he'll put the new stands in.
That'll be for this one winter season coming up.
It will.
And then by next summer, we'll be in the new.
So these stands should be going in like February of next year, unfortunately. Kind of at the tail end of like hockey season and a lot of that, the new stands will be going in.
So is there any spectator space?
There is. People just stand, they do it now. They stand around the rink. So. Yeah, then we had the benches, new ice went in. So you're familiar, hopefully you're familiar with kind of the layout of Winterhurst right now. What I did, I tried to color code just so you could kind of see like functionally where things are. So in green there, I'll just go kind of right to left. In green, those are the 7 remaining locker rooms. There were 8, that 8th locker room, which is like in, I don't know if it's gray on your screen or whatever, that's the room we had to convert that to a referee room. You're supposed to have a separate official and referee room per USA hockey rules. So now we're down to 7 locker rooms, 1 toilet. The red is the storage that they were using under the stands in Rink 1. None of it was fire rated, none of it was code. And so that was something that we had to correct. The yellow is the portion that Iceland USA provided in 2008. Those are 2 high school level locker rooms that they added an addition. We have had significant HVAC issues with both of those spaces the last 2 years, and we're addressing that as part of this. We're actually moving the air handler unit from the old locker room section, and we're going to look at putting it on top of those 2 locker rooms to pick up. It should be more than capable of heating and cooling those 2 spaces. The little blue space above the yellow is the figure skating office right now. And then if you keep going up, the pink, that's locker room 10. That was originally designed to be like a physical training space. We have used it as the girls' locker room. It's too far away from the other teams. The girls have to change in there, and they have to walk all the way around rink 1 to get back to the locker room so they join their team before the game. And so that's a lot of things that we're trying to rectify. Second floor, if you're familiar with the mezzanine level of Winterhurst, we're not really changing anything except we're providing access. It is not ADA accessible. So the yellow is the existing. The red is what we provided through the RFQ and RFP process in terms of kind of the maximum boundaries to build out to. That gives us about a 10-foot setback on Warren and a 14-foot setback on Lakewood Heights, was what we determined to be the most acceptable. There's no real issues with visibility at this intersection because Lakewood Heights is a one-way road. And so we could take that corner out as far as feasible. We wanted to maintain some setback, but we weren't too concerned with maintaining a huge yard at that point. So the new configuration that we're working towards right now, and again, I'll work my way kind of right to left. So now you see there are 8 full general purpose locker rooms. Each of those is equal to or larger than the largest locker room that we had before. Each of those locker rooms has its own toilet and shower facilities, so they could be used by a girls' team, a boys' team, or you could have a co-ed team occupy one of those locker rooms. The little pink or red locker room that's on the bottom row there, so that is the new co-ed girls' changing room. So if you have a youth team that has girls mixed in it, now the girls will be right next door or immediately adjacent to their team's locker room, so they're not walking all the way down, but they have their own separate, distinct room. The blue is a coaching office, which is important for storage of things. We have at least 4 high school teams that operate out of Winterhurst, as well as a lot of other programs that come in there. Then you have that standalone referee official room. Underneath the stands, there will be 4 separate fire-rated storage spaces. Each of those will be accessed through the full-width pathway, which is going to be part of that addition along Lakewood Heights. Because the stands are now going to be ADA accessible, I'll show you in a second the height difference. They're going to be raised slightly to help with visibility. It's kind of the contemporary design. They're aluminum with plastic caps on the seats, but they do have the ADA kind of spaces for people to come into. But that storage area is going to be key for teams, but now you have to have another pathway for kids and their bags and everybody to get back to the locker rooms. So that hallway is that pathway.
So who's storing what? It's
Probably
users,
we've
not-
got speed skating has their own storage needs. We've got like Bay Village High School is a team.
different people using the facility,
Different
not the
groups.
staff, not the supplies. Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
So then you've got the existing yellow, those are the high school locker rooms, but with one change being the figure skating office and the former pro shop is going to be converted into a standalone locker room for Lakewood High School. It's another big objective that we were trying to get out of this project, trying to raise the profile of that program, trying to bring them online with EDS and some of the other users of the building and have their own locker room. So that's something that we're working with them. That figure skating office is going to be moved up to where locker room 10 was at the top. They're happy, they got more space, they have their own bathroom, and it'll be converted into their office. So that's the first floor, really just that addition from the green kind of wrapping around that pathway. It is, for all intents and purposes, it is a separate building that's being built onto the existing building. Because of fire code and other reasons, it's basically like 2 walls slapped up against each other so that we don't bring fire code into the rest of the building and triple the cost of the project. The second floor, we do have an area, the training space area, right up, it's about 5,500 square feet. There are 2 bathrooms that will be built upstairs. In addition to, I probably skipped right over it, there is an elevator in that back area. And that is how we now make that mezzanine level of the rink accessible. You can go to that lift, get up the lift, down the hallway, and then there will be a new elevated walkway in rink 1 that connects you to that mezzanine level. Should be pretty cool, elevated metal walkway, looks over the rink. And so that's the way that we were able to make the mezzanine level accessible without, we really tried to put that elevator in the front of the building. There were so many issues and cost issues and stuff that this is the location of the lift in the back was the most cost efficient to get an elevator in that building without basically tearing the roof and reconstructing the roof of the building, just based on how the soffit design and everything of trying to put it in the front or center in the front. What we're currently working on, Mr. Chair, this is a layout of that space right now, serving 3 different kind of areas. The space, we're still kind of working with that, but a sports medicine area, a physical training area, weight equipment and that stuff, but with a significant enough space reserved for the public and teams to use as a warm-up and a turf area. And so those 3 components we're trying to fit into that 5,500 square foot on that second floor above the locker rooms.
Sorry, let me be slow. Turf area means?
Just an open turf area that teams can get online, warm up, do their stretches, all those types of things, and as well as the physical training and the sports medicine folks can use that for their rehab and strengthening. So,
and I do see that we have Lakewood Rec entering the discussion in the building. So we've been talking about greatly expanded programming and access and storage and dedicated Lakewood High School locker room space for all kinds of ICE programs, which is pretty exciting. Go ahead, Mr. Boss.
this is a section just so you get an idea real quick of the height difference of those stands. So the stands, the front of the stands will be kind of about halfway up the boards. You can see the storage rooms underneath those stands, and then you get a perspective of kind of the first floor hallway and the second floor hallway above it. We are working and fully intend to have windows that look from that the second floor hallway into the rink. We're limited by how the roof is designed and the trusses and everything, but we will have windows on that, just as part of activating that hallway so that people can look in, see what's going on in the rink space. Exterior, I got a little bit more, just so you get an idea. So we value engineered down from full masonry, which I also thought would have looked a little too imposing. We went with insulated metal paneling so we could break up the texture and the coloring of the exterior. Fully intend to replace the mural. I've contacted the artists, and we're going to continue to work with the artist towards enlarging and relocating that mural.
That means okay, so keeping the same design is going to
it's just probably going to be a different location based on windows and the facade of that building. But there will be a masonry basically band along the bottom like you typically see in a rec building. And so pretty rough. Well, we did get some renderings just so you get an idea. It's going to be a significant change at Warren and Lakewood Heights. It is not an object of architectural beauty. It is a rec building. It's functional. It's what it's intended to do. You can see that, unfortunately, we had to take we had windows on that second floor hallway running all the way down the building. It is a kind of a casualty of value engineering at this point based on cost, as well as the architect and engineer even attempted to deconflict the windows, but one of the big issues we get with rinks is with the south-facing sun, we will get hot spots on rink 1 of the sun going through both windows. And so to avoid that, that can cause significant issues with your ice and maintaining your ice. So we took the windows out of that long corridor. That gives us, I'm just going to call it as a significant canvas for more murals and different things that you can see from I-90. Whether it's larger signage or something, we are going to work to clearly identify this as a Winterhurst Ice Arena. And so this is the Warren facade. This is the facade that I'm looking at working to replace that mural on that side, because you have pieces of this facade that face kind of both directions coming down, and I can work with them to basically get that mural wrapped around as the facade changes direction so that you can kind of see it from both directions. The rendering of this is a little, I believe it appears a little closer to the sidewalk and the curb than it's actually going to be based on the site plan, the laydown. We're going to work with Public Works for landscaping, trees, the things that we can fit into the green space once the wall is constructed. So.
Mr. Baker, and I want to make sure Mr. Evans can talk about public art and alternatives to murals, but go ahead.
Yeah, and this is not city council's lane, but whatever we can do to make that look better. That's, a lot of people come to Lakewood off of Warren, and so signage, you know, all public art, I'll leave it to Councilman Evans too, if he has any other suggestions.
Yeah, I think it would be a great opportunity to look at some green that is actually mounted, like green screen that we can do that would soften that up quite a bit, even if it's just halfway up. And yeah, maybe some not mural. We do a lot of murals, which we love, but working into some more, you know, three-dimensional type art. And then also, yeah, making this a gateway to Councilman Baker's point to Lakewood. I mean, the ice rink is extraordinarily important, but this is also a gateway to the city. So how can we balance those two things?
Yeah, lighting.
There's a lot of opportunity here, and you know, looking forward to working with the administration on how we can soften this and make it an attractive feature.
Some lighting features during the right times of year and hours of the day and so forth. I mean, I think, so for the architectural treatment, arguably there could be an additional and separate allocation of dollars, because you've been, if I'm reading this correctly, that all of that for $2.1 million is actually quite a lot of value, I think.
All of this is about 4.1 all in for the construction, and we are squeezing every penny that we can possibly get out of this project at that price.
I do see it. Yeah, 4.1 for this. Mrs. Kriebig.
Thank you. Can you go back to the second floor? I wanted to look at that. Public restrooms.
They're tucked back right on this layout. They're tucked back up by the sports medicine.
And are those single-use restrooms?
Both of them are.
So we could make those all gender restrooms.
Sign them however you want, council member. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if when you had two bathrooms, or if it was, you know, the traditional men's bathroom with three
I think that's just
facilities.
that's just a typical layout that the architect just includes two, whether that's a holdover from male, female, or whatever. But that's
Okay.
the intention is to have two, because if I got a team of 25 12-year-olds up there, there's going to be two kids that have to go to the bathroom at the same time.
These particular bathrooms are more intended for the sports patrons as opposed to spectators, right? There's other
It is. I mean, this is back of the house, second floor. It's kind of far away from.
for the athletes. Absolutely.
Yeah, most of the bathrooms that you have are on
This
that
is where I saw it. Back.
mezzanine level and on the first floor. They're in the same location in the lobby.
And then for the general public restrooms, where do we see those?
Those are there's no change to those. Those are I don't have a laser pointer on me,
Okay.
but
Underneath the green.
yeah, it's
I
top left. There's right now it's a male and a female bathroom.
Vintage 1975 or 83.
Yeah. Are there any opportunities for single-use facilities anywhere in the building?
Not at this time, Councilmember. I don't have.
Thank you.
I mean, if we did, to the councilwoman's point, if we did plan for an expanded family use bathroom and a single-use bathroom, at least to have at least one each would be enormous. I know bathrooms cost a significant amount, and so we've gotten a briefing on the current, but that's a legitimate point for the visitors lobby as soon as we can get to it. I think we are out of time, and the council president has been patient, but just for members of the public who filled up, this has been a very exciting update from the planning department and Mr. Boss in particular of a major investment in Winterhurst Ice Rink to update locker rooms, access ways, usability. That all supports expanded programming for learn to skate, learn to play, and a bunch of needed upgrades. So it's a major commitment of resources. It seems that the community has been responding. Frankly, Lakewood Rec, I know you're not here for this, but there's an opportunity for better coordination or stronger communication to market, invite avocations of new athletes in figure skating and hockey, and just continue to add vitality into our programming, our facilities, our community, so on and so forth. So this has been great. Appreciate the update. Any last comments? Okay. Without objection, the Finance Committee is adjourned.
We'll take about 5 minutes to reset here and then have full council meeting.
Let's go talk to Leslie right now and find out.
All right, we will call to order the full council meeting for July 21st. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll now pause for a moment of silence. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Baker,
Here.
Councilmember Bullock,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
President Keppel,
Here.
Councilmember Marks,
Here.
Councilmember Steiner,
Here.
Councilmember Strebig.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held July 7th, 2025.
Move to approve without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes. Without objection, I'd like to move items 7, 11, and 12 to the top of the agenda.
Item 7, Resolution 2025-35, a resolution to recognize the Lakewood Rangers High School varsity baseball team on its historic 2025 season, winning the district title for the first time in 32 years and reaching the Elite Eight in the OHSAA State Baseball Tournament.
Councilmember Evans?
Thank you, Madam President. It's a privilege to honor the Rangers baseball team for this amazing season. So much hard work by a lot of different people, coaches, staff, administration, parents, and obviously the players. I had an opportunity to talk to Vince France, who's here this evening last week, and we were discussing that this is really the product of an investment that everybody here has made in baseball culture in Lakewood, starting with a lot of when these guys were playing just t-ball. This season was a reflection of that investment. I think it's a reflection of who we are as a community, and this team this year really paid that investment off on the diamond. So you made Lakewood very proud. Thank you. I'm going to turn my time over to Vice President Baker.
Vice President Baker.
Thank you, President Keppel, and thank you, Councilmember Evans, for joining me in this resolution. And I'll just say, you know, Coach Graves and Athletic Director Sloan, who I know is Coach Sloan because he coached me in basketball more than 20 years ago, but he was 2 when he did it, so it's okay. And I talked to Dr. Greenoff, who helped write this resolution as well, as we did the 4th of July parade. And he said that some of those other programs around the county, and I won't name them, can't really be called programs because they just recruit the best players and they come and play for their teams. But what the culture that Lakewood and Coach Graves and the athletic department have made here at Lakewood is that all these kids are from this zip code, from 44107. And that's what you got. And you got to work with those kids. You got to grow them and grow a program. And it was so fun to watch them this year. 42-12 over the last 2 years, beating St. Edward's, which is something that they might not realize, but they'll remember for the rest of their lives. I certainly remember when I did it. You know, just the work that went into it, and I want the team and the whole athletic department to know that you really made the community proud. And I was so happy. You know, my son is 8 years old. He plays in the Lakewood Community Baseball Association, and we watched the Hoover game, and it was so fun to kind of see him and see his fandom and his love of the Rangers and his disregard for other schools that are our rivals grow. And that's just so fun. And it's about building community, and it's about, you know, showing respect for our community. And all the alumni that I know were super engaged as well. So you should be proud of yourselves, and we are. So thank you.
Thank you. Other council members?
Chair.
Yep,
Madam
Councilmember Bullock.
President, I'll just add, I think it's well said by others. I know that a lot of parents, coaches, rec leaders, and Vince France have made this point multiple times to me that recreation is not just recreation. It's economic development, it's community, it's keeping family, attracting and keeping families here in Lakewood. And then, of course, you know, as I'm a parent, I've come to realize it's socialization for my kid, it's emotional development, it's confidence building, it's just fun living in life. I've got one son right now going into 5th grade who's out playing a playoff game right now. I'm missing it for this. But that's okay. And maybe I'll get the second guy to play next year. He was at the batting cages, and Paul Porter, you know which son I'm talking about. So anyway, I hope to join in the tradition that everyone here is talking about. I welcome it. Thanks. And congrats.
Absolutely. Yes, congratulations. All right. Well, I will first move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Other than congratulations and thanks for making us proud. So we're about to vote on this. We do have the next two items. We'll also be celebrating the folks from the parade. We anticipate a series of pictures down front, so we'll vote on this one, do the next two, and then when we come down, we can just run through the pictures rather than having to go back and forth multiple times. So, so just so everyone's heads up on that one. All right, so on the motion to adopt, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes. Congratulations.
Item 11, communication from Mayor George regarding 2025 Grand Marshal of the 4th of July Parade.
Mayor George.
Members of Council, this evening I invite members of Council to join me in recognizing the Lakewood Community Recreation Education Department as the 2025 July 4th Parade Grand Marshal. Lakewood is proud to recognize the Lakewood Community Recreation and Education Department, and we would like this opportunity to thank them for serving the residents of Lakewood. In addition, I would like to recognize the following parade winners. Best Color Guard, Lakewood Fire Department Honor Guard. Best Float, Dr. Ron Kolajic, and I apologize if I'm butchering your last name, Dr. Ron. Most Original Entry, 41 North Coastal Adventures. Best Bicycle, Lakewood Cub Scouting. And Most Spirited, Lakewood Ranger Marching Band. Following our presentation to the Lakewood Community Recreation Education Department, I invite representatives of the winning parade entrants to come forward to receive their plaques and to be recognized by the members of Lakewood City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move to receive and file the communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. In discussion, I just want to say congratulations to all of the winners. Also, thank you to everyone who participated in the 4th of July Parade, another fabulous parade, as well as to our city staff, Melissa Garrett and her team, Public Works, the Public Safety Forces, everyone who contributes to making the parade as fabulous as it always is. All right, further discussion on the communication? Hearing none on the motion to receive and file, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 12, Resolution 2025-36, a resolution to thank the Lakewood Community Recreation and Education Department for participating as the 2025 Grand Marshal in the City of Lakewood 4th of July Parade.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? No? Hearing none. It was fortuitous, actually, to come in tonight on the Winterhurst discussion, and then we're recognizing the baseball team. So it kind of shows the investment in recreation and how important it is for our community, and how far-reaching it is. So it's great to have you guys here tonight, and thanks for your service as Grand Marshals. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none on the motion to adopt, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. All right, so we're going to head down front and let's do baseball team, and then we'll do Grand Marshal, and then the entries.
Item 1, report from Committee of the Whole meetings held July 14th, 2025, and today, July 21st, 2025.
All right. Dear colleagues, you are all present at the July 14th meeting of the Committee of the Whole, as well as Law Director Vargo, Planning Director Byington, Public Works Director Gordon, Council staff, and members of the public. We began the meeting discussing Ordinance 2025, to enact Section 901-23 Complete Streets. Vice President Baker led off the discussion, noting that this ordinance has been 2 years in the making and that it was important for Council and the administration to work together in order to develop the right model for Lakewood. Vice President Baker walked Council members through the minor changes in the proposed substitute, which include edits to the Tier 1 and Tier 2 submission process, which had been a significant point of discussion at the joint meeting with Planning Commission. The emergency language clause had also been removed as the ordinance would not require the complete require the complete streets process to apply to Tier 1 streets until 2027, though the administration expressed that the 2 main street projects set for 2026 both include complete streets elements, even though they are not formally using the process outlined in the legislation. The substituted complete streets ordinance was recommended favorably for full adoption by Council. The other item discussed was Ordinance 17-2025, enacting Chapter 161, Complete and Active Streets, Education and Advisory Board. I explained that the Case Board Ordinance sets up structure similar to that of the Public Art Advisory Board Ordinance, though of course the main function of the Case Board is to help support the implementation of the Active Transportation Plan, as well as other connected plans such as the ADA Transition Plan and Tree Canopy Plan. In response to a concern from the administration, we removed language that allowed the chair or a majority of members to call a meeting and will instead allow it to be addressed in the bylaws created by the group. We discussed a number of known and suggested projects with which the group could get started, including but not limited to the crash analysis studio training, potentially partnering with the Lakewood Alive street audit, reviewing the list of ideas provided by several council members, hike and bike to school week, and many more. Members of the public spoke in favor of both ordinances, and Ordinance 17-2025 was also referred favorably back to full council for adoption. And on July 21st, Committee of the Whole met tonight at 6 p.m. to discuss process related to the Charter Review Commission's recommendations. Law Director Vargo and Assistant Law Director Swallow and Finance Director Mahoney were also in attendance, as well as members of the public. At the July 7th meeting of Committee of the Whole, we did a deep dive into ranked choice voting, what it is, how it works, and the implications for Lakewood. At the end of that meeting, we asked the Law Department to draft ordinances for each of the recommendations. The charter amendments recommended by the Charter Review Commission were related to the enactment of ordinances and resolutions, codifying the practice of filling vacancies through an open appointment process, enacting ranked choice voting for municipal elections, establishing a redistricting process for the 4 wards, and items related to council mayoral salaries. Tonight we discussed process. It was noted that it would be a hurried process to get these on the ballot for the November 2025 election, and that even if they were to be passed by voters in 2025, the earliest municipal election in which ranked choice voting would possibly be implemented would be the 2027 municipal election, so that appearing on the 2026 ballot would not delay implementation, but would allow for more education of voters and understanding of related state legislation and fine-tuning of the ordinances. Likewise, the redistricting process was recommended to happen after each census, so it would also be implemented just as quickly, whether on the 2025 or 2026 ballots. Council members all expressed support for aiming for the November 2026 election, and the Law Department also expressed support. One member of the public spoke in favor of both ranked choice voting and expanding the lead time for education on the matter. Closing the meeting, I laid out a time frame expecting that much of the rest of 2025 committee time would be spent on City Hall and budget discussions, as well as other time-sensitive committee matters, so I anticipate picking the charter amendment discussion back up in the new year. Move to receive and file that report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 2, substitute ordinance 16-2025, an ordinance to take effect immediately to enact Section 90123, complete streets of the codified ordinances of the City of Lakewood to address the livability and safety needs of Lakewood by building upon efforts to promote an equitable multimodal transportation system.
I will move to adopt.
Second, I do think we have to make another motion.
Oh, for the
discharge,
to discharge.
Planning Commission.
Okay. Okay, so I should do that first, probably. Okay, so first, actually, because we did refer this to Planning Commission, and we had discussed it with Planning Commission, but we'll need to discharge it from there. So I will first move to discharge from Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that motion passes.
Yes. So we removed emergency language from the end of the. Yeah, it's right there. Yeah, but we didn't do it from the whereas clauses. So I will make a motion to remove the language that says this ordinance is an emergency measure and shall take effect immediately.
Second? Sorry, we just realized that we, in the preamble.
And in the preamble.
I will second that motion. All right, so this is removing the emergency language clause as noted. The emergency language clause was taken out of the actual substance of the ordinance since it won't affect, won't be in place until the projects that are being built in 2027. All right, on the motion to remove that emergency language, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes. Okay, now we're ready to move to adopt.
Did you move?
I do.
All right, I second.
And would you like to say a few words, Vice President Baker?
Thank you, President Keppel. And, you know, this is being a person who grew up in Lakewood and grew up walking, biking, and driving around the city in various ways, and then being a parent and pushing a stroller, and then being a parent and riding a bike with a kid on a scooter or all those other things. We do have a great design of our city, but there are ways in which we can be better, and which way we can slow people down and accommodate all users of the public rights of way, whether you have a disability, whether you're just walking, or whether you're riding a bike. And this is something that, you know, when we proposed it earlier last year, it was a proposal, but over the past year, we've worked really hard with the administration, and I give a lot of different departments in the administration a lot of credit, because what we found is that in other cities where this fails, it's because one department or just council kind of comes up with a plan and then tries to implement it. But in this case, we need to make sure that public works and that planning and that finance and that law and then all these other departments of the city really understood and got buy-in into the process. And that's the way you get a successful public policy. And ultimately, you know, what I got into government to do, and what I think a lot of my colleagues got in government to do, was to make it work well for residents. And so at the end of the day, this is about making sure that the public can have a voice in these things, and that Planning Commission can perform its function to provide that forum, and that hopefully we can get safer public rights of way within the city for all users and guests and residents of Lakewood. So I'd like to thank everyone that worked with me on this, everyone in the administration, and my co-sponsors, President Keppel and Councilperson Streebig, particularly President Keppel. A lot of meetings with the administration to fine-tune these things. And I think what we got is what's right for Lakewood. We're unique, and we have a unique process, and so we had to come up with our own way to do it.
Thank you. And just thank you, Vice President Baker, for your leadership on this, and the administration for collaborating on this. I think it was a long road, but ultimately this is about roads, it's about sidewalks, it's about making everyone safer, and it's always better to take the time to get it right and make sure that we're building something that can last. All right, other comments? Councilman Bullock.
Thank you. To add a couple thoughts. First, thanks for the collegiality with the administration. There was a long process, and I think we got there together in the end. Thanks to colleagues. You know, I played a supportive role, but really the primary heavy lifting was from others. So this has been more than a year in the making. And this builds on, refines, enhances, I'm thinking of other action verbs, what we're already doing. It defines process for Tier 1 transportation projects and Tier 2, and has a little bit of a different approach for each. I do see in the public e-comments, and I don't know if we have any speakers tonight, there's a slight majority favoring, and some residents whom I know and respect concerned about what we're considering here tonight. And I think the concerns relate to a specific project underway right now. I'm wondering, could the sponsors of this proposal before us, which I do support, speak to the question of the process that we're laying out and the active transportation plan? Does that mean all projects everywhere get implemented automatically? Does it mean residents have input? Maybe in context with the following ordinance, could residents have enhanced input? Could we speak to that a little bit? Because I think some of the public discussion may be, I support or I don't support a certain plan on my street or the street near me. Therefore, when we talk about all active transportation and all complete streets, I may adopt a view of that pro or con.
Sure. Thank you for the question. And you know, the one thing I will say is that this does not create an outcome; it creates a process. And so the folks that are interested in complete streets, it doesn't mean that every street's going to be narrowed down and have lots of traffic calming or have shared use paths everywhere. It just means that there will be a process by which the public can engage on it, on certain projects. And people can come out and give their opinions. Now, ultimately, the city engineer and the Public Works Department and the administration will have the final say. And so that's what this ordinance does. All it does is it creates a process. A lot of times what happens in public works is that projects are designed in a way that there isn't that much public input, and we pave roads because we want to keep the pavement up. People don't like potholes, and that's how we've done it for a long time, and that's admirable. And then if you want to change after design's been done or after it's going too far down the road, it's hard to do that. So the idea is that the active transportation plan calls out priority intersections, priority corridors, and those are Tier 1, along with Detroit Road. And so anytime the administration redoes a majority of an intersection and a majority of one of those routes called for in the active transportation plan, they have to go pre-designed to Planning Commission with some of their ideas or conceptual, so they can say, hey, here's the project we're doing. We really think that, you know, curb bump outs might be good here. We think that a shared use path might be good here. Or we think, you know, bike lanes or sharrows might be good here. We think that, you know, whatever treatment they think, a raised intersection, a raised crosswalk. But Planning Commission and public, please give your input as to whether you agree, whether you think we should implement more things. And then the administration takes that back. And what we say in the ordinance is that on major projects that may be more than one Tier 1 submission. So it may be for Detroit Road, maybe 2, right? Maybe 3. Doesn't give a finite number. And then on the Stage 2 submission, it's not intended for Planning Commission to vote up or down the final plan. It is merely meant to let the public know what the final plan is, and then also give reasons why certain things that were suggested could or could not be included, whether that's cost component, whether that's storm water flow, whether that was some other consideration, turn radiuses for fire trucks, some other consideration that made it so that it couldn't happen. And so, you know, and then on Tier 2 projects, was every other project, the administration agrees to really look at these things internally. And I'll give a great example. They're redoing Northland for a major project, water mains, lead water replacement, storm sewer replacement. And they're going to do curb bump outs at Detroit and Madison, I believe. So they're going to implement these kind of traffic calming, neighborhood enhancing things without going through the formal process of Planning Commission. And like I said, this is not intended to, it doesn't make the outcome a certain way. It just creates a forum for input that the administration can take to make a project better. That means that certain people are going to make comments and have suggestions of what they want included in that project that might not be included. And that's part of the public process. Sometimes that happens. There needs to be a decision to be made. And so Complete Streets is a process. It is not an outcome. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Councilman Baker. It sounds like it enhances and further strengthens the public input process, really, is what we could be accomplishing here. So I certainly support that.
Thank you, and thank you for that clarification, Vice President Baker. Okay, we do have some folks signed in to speak on this. So first up is Robert Organ.
Rick Flarin tonight. Hey, I bet you'll never guess how I feel about this. I am so happy that we are creating a process by which we can implement safer streets. It's done before, it's gonna get done before King of the Hill starts next week, so that's super exciting. Obviously, this is not a perfect ordinance. Nothing probably could be. Unfortunately, this isn't just like a snap of the fingers and all our streets are safe now, but it gives us a process by which I can come and complain every time we're doing a street until we have like immaculate curb extensions and bike lanes everywhere. I'm going to keep showing up. But thank you so much for passing this. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, next, Amy Herberger. Oh, push the button. So there you go.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. 16/2025. Actually, the public comment is not binding. It's symbolic on Tier 1. So I just want to say, I have to ask, do you just not care what residents think regarding Bunce Road multimodal? Most people do not think it's safe. Most people do not think it's environmentally friendly. Few believe it's truly progressive, and yet this plan keeps on moving forward. I've posted fact after fact, shared real concern, and still no one seems to be listening. We have a petition with over 300 plus residents, 1,300 plus residents, and still nothing. My children were brought up on this street. We care deeply about our neighborhood. We care about the environment and the safety of our neighborhood. Do you? Because a 10-foot wide asphalt path replacing green grass and mature trees and a community sidewalk is not environmentally friendly. It's not. It's not safe, especially when it intersects with 95 residential driveways and cuts across a 16-pump gas station and another gas station. That's not safe for pedestrians, cyclists, or drivers. Let's talk facts. On May 7th, residents received a letter and it made no mention of a multimodal path at all, okay? On June 9th, a plan was approved that residents had minimal, if any, opportunity to give input on. Let's be clear, there was no overwhelming support. The city did not engage with the residents that were most affected. Form letters from a special interest group is not overwhelming support by any means. It's the opposite. Bunce Road is telling you, we do not want this project. Look around on the streets. The path is not needed. It's a waste of taxpayers' money and an act of environmental destruction. Paving over a beautiful strip of green grass and some over 40-plus-year-old trees. We need our green space and our residential sidewalk. Cleveland isn't continuing the path. University Heights has paused their plans. So why are we forcing it through our community? This idea is rooted in planning trends that are from 20, 30 years ago. Today, new data shows that multimodal paths will increase conflict in dense residential zones, along with noise and maintenance issues, especially with the rise of e-bikes. Studies have found that 40% of bike vehicle crashes happen at driveways and commercial entrances, exactly the type of intersection this path crosses. This is not safe. Property values are also at risk. A local realtor have told us Bunce is already congested, and adding a high traffic pathway will push values down, not up. Possibly my home value will decrease by as much as 35% with this loss of green space. And long-term maintenance, this is an ongoing taxpayer burden that no one is addressing, especially in this climate, okay? This is a destructive choice, but we can still make a better one. This plan will make our streets more dangerous, turn green space into an environmental crime scene, and lower property values and erode the residential character of my neighborhood. This is all being done without considering the people who actually live here. Across the country, communities are beginning to say no to projects like this because they don't fit. Lakewood should do this too, and tonight, I leave you with two voices. Like Cassandra, I'm telling you the danger, but I fear I won't be believed until the damage is done. And like the Lorax, I speak for the trees and for the families who live beside them. Please listen before it's too late. Save our community and our green space. Stop this multimodal plan before it's too late to undo the damage that you're going to do. Thank you.
Okay, next is Matt Herber.
Oops, pardon me. Matt Herberger, Bunce Road. Before I address 16-2025 and /17-2025, I just want to express my concern regarding the handling of the Bunce Road multimodal path. It's come to my attention that key legal and procedural requirements, particularly the proper service of summons and/or adequate public notice, may not have been properly followed. As you're aware, adherence to these procedures is not optional. It is essential to ensure transparency, accountability, and the protection of residents' rights under the law. When legal notice is not properly served, impacted parties are denied the opportunity to participate in decisions that affect their community, property, and quality of life. I respectfully request the following. I'd like a formal review and explanation of the procedural steps taken for this project, particularly regarding notices and service requirements. And I would hasten to look at Lakewood's ordinance. I think it's 131.02 as far as service, subpoena, service of summons. I'd like the clarification of whether all statutory requirements for notification and public engagement were met. And I would ask that there's a suspension of any further actions or per approval on this project until this matter is resolved. I'm not opposed to development that follows the proper legal and public process. However, when those processes are bypassed or mishandled, it undermines public trust and raises serious concerns about the fairness and legality of the project's progression. I urge the council to take this matter seriously and act in accordance with the principles of due process and good governance. With my limited time left, I'd like to point out a couple of things. You got to crawl before you can walk, and you got to walk before you can run. And this Complete Streets initiative, for all its perhaps good benefits, you don't have the ordinances in place nor the regulations in place for proper safety. So you're putting the cart before the horse. It's clear. Where do e-bikes serve in this? What are our speed limits? What kind of enforcement actions are taken? Even currently, right now, and I will say with the bicyclists that are here, when I'm driving down the street and there's a bike lane right next to me, who has right of way at a green light that's turning right? No one's addressed this. So we talk about safety, we talk about safety plans, we talk about these ideas. We don't have any laws in place to properly regulate it. We don't. And when e-bikes come, and they are growing, look at the numbers. For all the cyclists here, even the bicycles parked out front, there's 4 of them. 2 of them are e-bikes. Where are the regulations for that? What's the speed limit for that? Do they belong on the sidewalk? Do they belong on a multimodal path? Do they belong on the street? Are they vehicles? Are they motorbikes? What are they? These are great ideas that you have, but without enforcement, without proper laws, without proper ordinances, you're asking for a disaster. You're asking for issues with public safety that we've already seen, already existing. So I urge you, on top of all of this, start thinking long-term about what these plans mean and what kind of laws we need into place, because the e-bike people will start saying they want to be here and they want to go this speed. You have to have a structure, a legal structure in place before you put the physical structure in place, at a minimum. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just quickly note, so the Complete Streets Ordinance is not about any specific project, nor is it recommending any specific elements on any specific roads. It's talking about the types of things that can make things safer for our kids walking to school, like curb bump outs, raised crosswalks, things of that nature, rather than necessarily legislating speed limits or anything like that. But that is another element that I know some of my colleagues and I have been talking about too, in terms of regulations for the upcoming shared use path as well. Okay, so we are still on, I don't see anyone else signed in to speak on this topic. We did have a few e-comments, I think. Okay. Did anyone else sign in to speak, want to speak on this topic? You can come on up and just state your name further. You want it to be green? Yep. Yeah, you turned it off. That's okay.
I put mine in the general comments, but I'd like to speak on this issue. My name is Alexander Benedict. I'm a new resident to Lakewood. I live in Ward 4, and I just would like to make a public comment in favor of the Community Streets resolution. And also, I would like to make a comment in favor, in particular, of protected bike lanes, which I think would address a lot of the comments that we just heard from the last speaker in terms of conflicts between cars and bikes that would create separation. That's all I'd like to say tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome to Lakewood. All right, anyone else want to speak on this topic? Okay. Any further discussion from council members? All right, so we have a motion and a second to adopt Ordinance 16, 2025. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 3, substitute Ordinance 17, 2025, an ordinance to take effect immediately, enacting Chapter 161, Complete and Active Streets Education Advisory Board of Codified Ordinances of the City of Lakewood, to establish a permanent, complete, and active Streets Education and Advisory Board for the purpose of collaborating with city officials regarding facilitating safe, effective, and enjoyable multimodal community usage of public right-of-way corridors.
First, move to discharge from Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. We did have a a meeting with Planning Commission to get their feedback, and we incorporated that into our last committee of the whole meeting where we discussed those additions. All right, on the motion to discharge from Planning Commission, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. And then I will move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. So this is the Complete and Active Streets Education and Advisory Board, as I mentioned in my report from this meeting, which was quite a bit of time ago now since we started this meeting. But this Advisory and Education Board, we already have quite a plethora of ideas for things that they can be working on. That can be everything from helping to enact our active transportation and safe streets for all plans, as well as educate the community. And also it includes members, we try to get a variety of lived experience, so folks who walk, bike, use public transit, and as well as folks with disabilities. So it also touches on our ADA transition plan, as well as our, to the point about the trees, about our tree canopy plan as well, and I'm sure they'll work with the tree advisory board. So a lot of intersections, both literally and figuratively here. So really excited to see where this board goes, and I want to thank my co-sponsors, Vice President Baker and Councilwoman Schubig, for this, as well as the work with the administration. Any further discussion from colleagues? No? All right, so on the motion to adopt, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 4, report from Finance Committee meeting held today, July 21st, 2025.
Councilmember Bullock.
Thank you, Madam President. The Finance Committee met today, immediately prior to this council meeting. We considered two matters. The first is the ordinance that follows on the agenda here, proposed ordinance 21-2025. Pardon me. We recommended adoption. The second was we
Take your time. Chair of the, you're a member of the Finance Committee. Why don't you take
So it was the ordinance 21-2025 was favorably referred from committee. That was a routine third quarter transfer. And then we also got a presentation from Assistant Director Boss about the investments that we are making at Winterhurst to include a new chiller that went in last year, some additional work for floor heaving that occurred recently, and then the public will notice some pretty dramatic expansion along the intersection of Lakewood Heights and Warren Road to include more adequate locker room space for all the teams that play there, ADA accessibility, an elevator for ADA accessibility, sports medicine area, athletic facilities so that teams warming up don't have to warm up in a busy parking lot. So really, and then this is Director Ross also gave some information and data on the community's re-engagement with Winterhurst after taking over from a private operator. Lakewood Community Ice has done a wonderful job with the Mini Monsters program, learner skate programs, open skates for folks, so that the community can really engage with that facility in a way that I certainly did when I was a kid, when it was publicly run, and excited to see that a new generation of young people in Lakewood can do the same.
Second. Motion's been made and second. And thank you, Vice President Baker, for filling in there. Well done on the fly. All right. Motion's been made and seconded. And I'll just add my thanks to Assistant Director Boss for, one, having the forethought in the midst of a lot of things going on in his life to get this on the docket for us, and also to be prepared, so come back and speak. So I really appreciate that. All right, and all the work that he's put in there. Oof, it's like that's his other full-time job. So really appreciate him. All right, on the motion to receive and file the report, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 5, ordinance 21-2025, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the transfer in advance of certain funds.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 6, ordinance 22, 2025, an ordinance to take effect immediately to establish appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Lakewood, State of Ohio for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2025.
Move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 8, report from Vice President Baker regarding Lakewood Alive Board of Directors meeting held July 16, 2025.
Vice President Baker.
Dear colleagues, the Lakewood Alive Board of Directors met on July 16, 2025 at the Lakewood Public Library for its bi-monthly meeting, and I attended as an ex officio appointee of the board from council. The meeting started with some excellent updates and votes regarding new board members, recognizing outgoing board members, election of officers and committee chairs, and the 2026 budget for Lakewood Alive. The board voted to allow Jody Barnes, Hannah Belcito, Christina McCallum, and Lawrence Migelski to join the board of directors as new directors. Each new director has a unique skill set that will aid Lakewood Alive in the community. I look forward to working with each of them. The board also voted to allow Jennifer Nguyen, Brian Meng, Sid Ordog, and Jesse Smith to a second term on the board of directors while celebrating the great service that outgoing directors Tim D. Wald completed a second term, Sandy Fike completed her first term, and Rob Brill, resignation because he moved out of state, provided during their term with Lakewood Alive. The board also approved the 2026 budget. Council members looking to get more involved with and support Lakewood Alive can attend an event or talk with me about joining a committee or participating in a volunteer project. For example, the Lakewood Alive's design committee is doing walk audits of the city. So they are walking around and literally checking all of the buttons to push when you cross, making sure that all the crosswalks work. So they do, and there probably are a lot of things that they can collaborate with CASE on as that just passed tonight. For a full list of Lakewood Alive's event, please subscribe to their newsletter. And of note, the Front Porch Concert Series continues on Fridays in July. And for those of you that were able to make it, Summer Meltdown was tremendous this weekend. And thank you to those up here, including Councilmember Evans, who volunteered their time to the event. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that report. Motion's been made and seconded. I'll also add, in regards to Meltdown, our thanks again to Public Works, Public Safety, everyone involved from the city to make that event safe and fun for everyone. So thank you. Other discussion? Hearing none, on the motion to receive and file, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 9, communication from Councilmember Bullock regarding proposed rules for Airbnb to ensure quality, safety, and accountability on operations.
Councilmember Bullock, hopefully.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. And also, really, Councilman Evans is a co-sponsor as well. And so this is a long letter, so maybe I could hand it off between the two of us. And I also note, Council President, we may have one or more members of the public to speak either on this or the ensuing agenda item. So, dear Mayor and members of Council, please see attached a proposed ordinance to provide rules by which Airbnbs or short-term rentals in Lakewood would be required to adhere to certain rules to achieve quality, safety, and operator accountability. This is a concept draft, not a finished product, intended to initiate a deliberation by Council and via public input the community at large. We expect a fair amount of discussion will be required and that gathering views and input from a range of stakeholders will be important and that amendments to this initial draft could be helpfully proposed. Nevertheless, we want to get the proposal formally introduced and consider as a first step towards providing a response to a significant amount of resident concern we have heard and received due to Airbnb operations in a growing number of locations in Lakewood. A quick summary, the proposed ordinance in brief would establish a requirement that short-term rentals obtain a license annually from the city, which would be granted if safety, quality, and informational disclosure requirements were met, and which could be revoked as a means of accountability if conditions at and operation of the property fell short of the requirements. For consideration, although not appearing in the current draft, is whether to incorporate stronger limitations or requirements as part of the Lakewood zoning code into the ordinance. Note that since February 2006, before Airbnbs first arose as a practice in San Francisco in August 2008, Lakewood codified ordinances, chapter 11, Section 1161.03C, has provided for operation of bed and breakfast, traditional bed and breakfast, as a conditional use in commercial and multiple family residential districts. That's not everywhere, that's some spots. That's not a use by right, that's a conditional use, which to my understanding always requires that a property owner would propose that and go before our boards and commissions to receive that authority. I'm not aware that that's been followed. As a background, residents have been contacting City Council to ask for relief from nuisance conditions originating at least at some short-term rentals, and in fairness, not all, in their neighborhoods. Examples include significant alterations made to a property in a single-family district and the property being used regularly and perhaps full-time as a short-term rental business. Another example would be a longtime family home near a Lakewood Public Elementary School sold to an out-of-state investor who operates the property as an Airbnb. Neighbors report noise and high traffic from parties held by short-term tenants at the property, including the use of the grade school parking lot for parking for the party, and the need for police response to the property, which includes fights at midnight, running through yards, jumping over fences of the neighbors. Another is chronic nuisance behavior at a different neighborhood based on repeated incidents of calls to the Lakewood police for drugs and other serious crimes at the Airbnb in a different neighborhood. A city public records request identified as many as 68 short-term rental properties in Lakewood, and as I said, not all of these are subject to complaints. But in all cases, the residents ask what rules apply to Airbnb operations. How will problems that we experience as neighbors be addressed? And we argue that the city and the community would be well served by clear answers to these questions. Councilman Evans, would you like to take over this point? Thanks.
Thanks, Councilman Bullock. Housing and policy goals. As possible guiding principles to this deliberation, we outline the following considerations in framing this housing policy decision. 1 and 2 family homes are Lakewood's primary tool for providing housing to school-age kids. Given trends in population and family size, the Lakewood Board of Education is experiencing school enrollment numbers below projected and desired levels. As such, we make the argument that the city should do everything we can to make available, affordable, safe, and quality housing for families with school-age children. The use and management of properties in our residentially zoned districts is directly related to this priority. National market trends, inflation, interest rates, and demographic patterns have led to rising housing prices regionally, and Lakewood's desirability has compounded this to raise our housing prices still further. This, in turn, impacts family decisions about whether or when to buy, and even whether to move to a different city. Business use of homes in residential districts reduces the supply of housing units and adds still more upward pressure on housing prices. Arguably, properties in residential zones are not intended to be primarily financial instruments, investments, but rather homes for families. While city government cannot and should not attempt to dictate decisions by private owners, we nevertheless are on firm ground to express as a community that the goal of providing long-term homes to residents that are safe and high quality is a top priority. Additional policy principles have been thoughtfully provided in detail by a Lakewood resident are included in the attachment below. We request a referral to a committee of the council's choosing for further consideration. Thank you.
Briefly, before moving to receive and file the communication, the attachment is an excerpt from a thoughtful resident who lists the factors you might, there are pros and cons. It's amenity to residents. We don't have many hotels. We like tourism. But on the other hand, there are zoning concerns, impacts on the character of neighborhoods, enforcement challenges, impacts on housing affordability. And then the fundamental question would be, where should these be allowed, in what zones? Should they be taxed? There's business activity that's not being currently collected. Hotels traditionally pay a bed tax. Enforcement is key. How about registration? Do we know who's there? Do we know where the practice is happening? Is there an on-site property manager to be a responsible party? There's criminal nuisance ordinance considerations. There's nuisance ordinance considerations. And then there's fire safety and other matters such as traditional home safety and inspections. So there's a lot to this. It's a business practice, and the practice has no doubt been occurring informally and is now on perhaps an upward trend. I also know that other jurisdictions in the region, in the state, have been adopting regulations of various kinds. So the invitation, or from residents to us and from us to our colleagues, would be that we also begin to think this through and make some formal decisions about how to handle and address this, whether that's expansive and permissive with a low number of rules, or restrictive with a high number of rules. Those are things that we need to work through. I've got some initial thoughts myself, but I think to do a thorough and credible job, we have some deliberation before us. So with that, I'd like to move to receive and file that communication, and refer to a committee of council's choosing.
Yeah, I would. I think referring the communication would probably be helpful, as well as unless you object to doing that. But I think referring the communication with the ordinance would be useful, with all that detail. And thank you for bringing this forward. I know this is a matter of concern for residents. We've been hearing about it as well. I do recall also when was that last year, or maybe the year before, when Commissioner Parmalee brought legislation to us about change of use of a home that had been when it went from being a privately owner-occupied home to being a rental home, that it would require a change of use permit. I remember asking at that time if that would apply to short-term rentals, and I thought the interpretation was yes. Now, if nobody knows that in the community, that doesn't help, and it also doesn't. It may be a different type of licensing, so that we want to look at. So good questions to be asking as this goes to committee. All right, so first I will, I'm going to move to refer the communication to Housing Planning and Development.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the communication? We do have folks signed in to speak. Do you have a preference on speaking on the communication or the ordinance? No? Okay. We'll do you on the ordinance then. All right, so on the motion to refer to Housing Planning and Development, all those in favor? Aye, and that motion passes.
Item 10, ordinance 23, 2025. An ordinance to take effect immediately enacting new section 783 short-term rentals and new section 116103CC short-term rentals of the Lakewood codified ordinances.
Move to refer to Housing Planning and Development.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Madam President?
Councilman Bullock.
Just one more process thing. The administration has not had an extensive chance at all to confer, or I should put that in reverse, that we haven't had a chance to confer yet with the administration. We fully intend to do that. The law department, or some members of the law department, were helpful in framing some of the basics of the proposal before us. There's no particular reason why that happened other than just the spirit of getting started sooner with the public discussion than later. I look forward to the chance to work with the mayor and the mayor's office and her team and get their views. But we're still, early in this and open to all suggestions and contributions to the discussion.
Okay, thank you. And we do have folks signed in to speak on this. So first up is Ralph Puno.
Hello, Ralph Puno, 12223 Madison. Just wanted to start off saying very much in favor of this. Short-term rentals are a good thing. They just have some operational issues. That's more of what I'm going to talk about today. First thing is, how will the short-term rental licenses administration, is that building department, I'm assuming, would probably be doing all that? My concern is, I've been working with the building department for 2 years trying to ensure housing licenses for all the rental places we have in the city, and I've literally been told we don't have the staff to look through that, so we can't do it. And if they can't do that, how are they going to have the staffing to do this? And part of that, I think, in my duty would be with this is it's very easy on Airbnbs or VRBOs, that website, to see who are all the properties that are saying they're rentals. And there's like 40 some that I saw. I had a quick review in the city right now, most of them in the southeast corner of the city. And, just going through those and seeing, do they have a license once we get to that point. The proposed ordinance says that we have single-family homes. I'm sorry, you can't have the whole, more than one unit being a rental. I mean, there are, right now, I have 2 down the street from me. There are 3 and 4 units that are Airbnbs 24 hours a day. They're running them right now. So you're going to have some issues with that if you're saying these people, you can't be an Airbnb anymore. So just, and I know there's more of them, that's just the ones I have. Contact information is the next one. If there's an issue, is that a police issue, or is that, you know, to contact the owner? Is that a police issue or the building department? Again, not trying to slam the building department, but I learned this from all the noise. After 5 o'clock, they're not there. They're not there on the weekend. So if there's an issue over the weekend, does that fall into, unfortunately, Kevin, your areas have to call the people and do whatever. What's the penalty if the owner doesn't respond? I know I'm using as rentals. I know the building department has a hard time getting a hold of rentals. There's one, again, right by me. They've been trying to get a hold of him for 2 years. He's in Las Vegas and just ignores them. I'm just giving it as an example. So if they ignore, you know, is that big fall into this something like maybe consider something like we do for outdoor dining. Every year, every one of them gets on the list and they start doing how many issues, how many things, and the ones that are problem children, you know, don't get they can't have it anymore. The proposed ordinance also says adequate off-street parking. Is that going to be a formal review of some type, or is it just going to be the owner? Yeah, I've got parking off. I mean, you know, I have enough parking because, again, the people who rent, I hate to say it, don't believe in traffic laws. We frequently have on Lark people parking on the wrong side of the road, and I know they just don't care because they're from out of town, never coming back, and so they're not going to do anything. So just another issue to think about. Certification and compliance of all building and health codes. Is that something that's going to be, you know, part of the process, truly a formal certification? Because like you said, Sarah, not all of them now have building, you know, housing licenses. They're just, I'm an Airbnb today. So it's just, again, coordination with that. And here's my wish list. Any density considerations, there could only be so many Airbnbs within square blocks, square miles, square something, because some of these, I mean, go to Airbnb and just do a search for Lakewood, Ohio, and look where the map shows up. I mean, there's some streets that have 10, 15 on them, and some, you know, just something to consider. Thank you. That's the only thing I had.
Thank you. Good thoughts. All right, next up, Micah Seacom.
Hello. I had a brief chance to read through this, so I won't say that my comments cover everything, but I'd like to make a few comments as I've noticed now. I'm generally a longer-term lease guy, but I do like to keep options open. My concern is that the way this is written, all Airbnb people are being lumped into one category. Yes, they're investors. Personally, I think they're insane to do it in Cleveland, but there's also people that happen to have a spare bedroom, maybe because a spouse died away, their kids are off in college, what have you. You might have someone that has inherited a property and they're trying to figure out what they want to do with it, and they just happen to be renting it out to till they make a decision. Sometimes that decision is dictated by the market, where they feel if they can wait, they may get a better price, and they're just going to rent it out until they can sell. I have serious reservations about regulating that. Now, investors are a completely different story. I have no objections to regulating investors, but I'm not really clear why, for the investors, why that can't be lumped with a regular landlord like me that just happens to offer a shorter term lease. I mean, I like to keep my options open. I already pay the fees, I meet the requirements, et cetera, et cetera. It seems to me, based on this, I would have to reapply and jump through a lot of hoops, which I don't think I should have to. You know, also the way I read the legislation, I have concerns with your short-term rental definition. If you lump short-term and long-term together, but as a long-term guy, I do entertain cases where a homeowner had an incident at their house, be it fire, plumbing issue, where their insurance is paying for them to stay somewhere else until construction is done. Sometimes it is less than 30 days. Under your definition here, it seems like I would need a license for that. Again, I'm fully licensed. As far as your occupancy goes, I think that's a little too detailed for the city to get into. I mean, if it's their home, they're living there, I find that overly intrusive. You know, again, if this isn't your real source of income, I don't think that they should be charged any fees. I see you have a note here in the ordinance. The responsible party must respond to complaints within 1 hour. I don't know how you would enforce that. And Airbnb has a rating system, and if you're a crappy landlord, well, the market will take care of that. I don't know why the city needs to be involved. So, I generally don't object. My concerns are for those people that are just not trying to make a living, but just to have a little extra income. I don't think they should be subjected to regulations versus someone that's an investor and is looking to make money. Thank you.
Thank you. Some good points also. All right, next up, Gina Vernacci.
Good evening. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for this important piece of legislation and this conversation for our community. Lakewood is a great community. It's densely populated, and you live by your neighbors' decisions, good and bad. At the heart of it, of course, are our schools, our family, and our residential housing. I just want to share with you that I spent the bulk of my career at Playhouse Square, 40 years as a matter of fact. And for most of my time there, I spent my time producing shows, producing tours, tending to the needs of touring artists where I thought I had absolutely seen it all. Until I became president and CEO, where I also was responsible for a 233-room hotel and a 318-room apartment building. And I realized that everything that I thought dealing with celebrities paled in comparison to dealing with guests in hotels and the behavior of people when they're not in their homes. It's pretty remarkable. And to have that, you know, embedded into our tightly knit community, I think is something that is really worth an examination. So I thank you for taking the time to do it. But it is a 24/7 responsibility. It's not a responsibility in running a hotel that if there was a problem, we had an hour to respond. You respond immediately to problems around the clock. I also just want to point out that in our great community, many of these homes are wood frame homes and on tightly, on very tight lots. And you're in close proximity. So there are other considerations in terms of, fire codes, fire inspections, the impact on police and security, which I can tell you I know firsthand, again, from running a hotel. Proof of insurance. You can't be in business without having insurance. And the proof of insurance with the acceptable limits of liability, I think, are very important. So we have a journey to go. This is the first step. I understand that. And I thank you all for giving focus to this because it is a very important topic. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think that's everyone signed in to speak on this topic. Nope, Molly, did you come on up? It might be on the other sheet, so I just have the one sheet up here. So.
Probably is. Molly Crow. Good evening, council members, Mayor George, others. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My notes are on my phone, so I'm not being rude. I'm here tonight to urge you to consider implementing common sense regulations on short-term rentals like those listed on Airbnb and similar platforms. I want to be clear, this is not a my backyard situation. I've personally used Airbnb when traveling with friends and family, and I appreciate what the platform offers when it is used responsibly. But what we're seeing in our neighborhood specifically is not responsible and it's not sustainable. We've experienced personally repeated disturbances, growing safety concerns from loud late night parties to fireworks being set off dangerously close to homes. The impact on the peace and livability of our community is undeniable. I shouldn't have to open my front door to someone who is inebriated, disoriented, pounding on it, looking for their phone in the middle of a Sunday afternoon. I should not be kept up late on a Thursday evening as fireworks are used in an engagement celebration. These are not one-off incidents. They're becoming more frequent, and what we're experiencing in our neighborhood pales in comparison to some of the incidents that are happening elsewhere. The most unsettling part, we have no idea who's coming into our neighborhood on any given weekend. Families in our community, many with young children, are left wondering who's staying in the rental down the street. Are they just tourists, or could they be a risk to our safety? If the city notifies us when a sex offender moves into the area, why don't we have any visibility when strangers are renting a property 2 doors down? Sometimes just for a night. What protections are in place? Airbnb does not require background checks for guests, and there's no accountability. The lack of oversight is leaving us feeling unsafe and compromised. As I mentioned, this is not an isolated issue, and we're not the only city facing it. Other cities in our region, as Councilman Bullock mentioned, have stepped up with reasonable balanced regulations and that protect both neighborhoods and property owners. We're simply asking our city to do the same. We're not asking to ban short-term rentals altogether. We're just asking for regulations that prioritize safety, transparency, and community standards. We need clear rules about occupancy limits, noise control, guest screening, and a system for neighbors to report and address violations in a timely manner. Thank you for your time and taking these concerns seriously. Please help us to preserve the peace and safety for everyone. We want to live in a neighborhood and not in a revolving door of strangers. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. All right, did we have anyone else who wanted to sign in or signed in or wanted to speak on this topic? Okay. So thanks all for your comments. I think we're going to have a good discussion on this when it gets to committee. So we have a motion and a second to refer the ordinance to Housing, Planning, and Development. Any further discussion from council members? No? On the motion to refer, all those in favor? Aye, and that motion passes.
Item 13, communication from Planning Director Byington regarding sale of property, former Lakewood Hospital.
Director Byington.
Thank you. Dear Council, President Keppel, and members of Council, on December 16th, City Council adopted ordinance number 21-2024, which approved the development agreement with Casto Incorporated for a mixed-use development for commercial and residential purposes at the site of the former Lakewood Hospital. The development agreement requires the city to convey the development site to the developer upon satisfaction of the specified terms in the agreement. We present this proposed ordinance out of an abundance of transparency, as ordinance number 21-2024 previously set forth the procedure for the transfer of the site. A copy of the purchase and sale agreement is attached. It is requested that council refer the matter to the appropriate committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll just move to receive and file the communication at this time.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. This is following up on us doing what we said we were going to do, essentially. But so on the motion, any further discussion on the communication? On the motion to receive and file the communication, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 14, Ordinance 24, 2025, an ordinance to take effect immediately authorizing the City of Lakewood, Ohio to transfer title to certain real property located within the city and enter into a purchase and sale agreement with Bell Avenue Partners LLC for the for the purpose of supporting the redevelopment of certain real property in the City of Lakewood.
I'll move to refer to Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Vice President Baker.
Yeah, I'll talk with the law department offline about whether this is related to the TIF or not. I assume it is, and then my ability to vote on it. But that's when it gets to committee and when ultimately it's considered. So for the referral, I think I can vote on the referral.
We're getting a nod from Director Fargo on that one, so I'll take that as a yes. Okay, and other discussion? Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Madam President. Thanks, Director Byington. So I look forward to, getting back into this topic and hearing more of the committee discussion. Is this, are there updates or changes compared to when we last discussed the development agreement back in December of last year, or is this simply carrying out what we talked about when we last discussed?
Through you, President Keppel, there haven't been any changes. This is just following through with what the development agreement had said that the city was going to do.
Okay, so we may well just get an update on how things are going and the steps and so forth, but and a review of this element, but in some ways it should be a straightforward deliberation.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. We do have one person signed in to speak on this, which is Mr. Zakem again.
So I've lost track of how many times council has discussed corporate welfare and, thank you, and greed perpetuated by other politicians. Last meeting, it was DeWine and First Energy. Sometimes it's the Browns. Many times it's the Trump administration. Yet tonight, here we are to approve the biggest corporate welfare in Lakewood history, a 30-year tax break for a large developer that does not need it. So once again, I want to ask council, where is a tax break for residents who cannot afford property taxes? What about the renters who want to buy a home in Lakewood but cannot afford property taxes? What about the small businesses that have made the city what it is, who have fought through COVID and have paid their taxes in full? Where's their break? I bet you won't have answers to those, or I'll hear a number of excuses. So I think we really need to consider the real answer is Lakewood doesn't really care about the average citizen. And so I went through and I reviewed the financial statements for 2013 through the 2015 budget, and I did not expect the level of fleecing I saw. I started out with 2013 because we were past the 2008 recession, and at that point we revalued property taxes. And I compared the actual numbers to what I would expect based on inflation. You know, after all, governments are not here to make a profit, but I would expect revenues should keep up with inflation. And when I make that comparison, I find that the taxes you have collected have far outpaced inflation. So, for example, in 2025, based on your own budget, revenues are expected to outpace inflation by 15.6 million. Why? We all know that property taxes that Lakewood gets have gone up far more than inflation. Also, Lakewood benefited when Ohio changed its withholding rules so that Lakewood collects income based on where that employee is located, not where the employer is located. Lakewood has benefited drastically from this post-COVID change. As of December 31st of 24, Lakewood has a 70.6 million balance in the general fund alone, and that number is only going to go up as new developments get built and income taxes get collected from the new residents. But even with all that money sitting around, I have yet to see any discussion whatsoever about reducing taxes from the average citizen. So the next time the public hears Lakewood ranting about some political greed, whether that's taking place in Columbus, in Washington, don't be fooled. The reality is there's plenty of greed taking place right here. And for those of you who are sick of that greed, I would invite you to stop by 15635 Madison Avenue any Wednesday between 6 and 8 p.m. to sign the petition to repeal property taxes. It's time to end the greed.
All right, thank you. All right, so on the motion to, we are still on the ordinance to refer to housing planning and development. Any further discussion? No. Or do we know?
We're going to do Kyle.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Cal. Yeah, we're on refer to committee of the whole. Thank you. Refer to committee of the whole. Any further discussion? Hearing none on that motion, all in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 15, communication from Planning Director Byington regarding former Lakewood Hospital site establishment of tax increment financing.
Director Byington.
Dear Council President Keppel and members of Council, this is yet another portion of the development agreement that was passed last year in December. As part of the development agreement and pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 5709.41, 5709.42, and 509.43, the city agreed to present a TIF ordinance to City Council for approval. The ordinance is applicable to all the commercial and multifamily parcels of the property and excludes the for sale residential units. The approximate area of the proposed TIF district is 5.3 acres and would include parcels number 314-07-147 and 314-07-148. Per the approved development agreement, the TIF shall run for 30 years and provide 100% exemption on the increase in assessed value of the development site, provided that the portion of the TIF applicable to residential components shall be a non-school and subject to the executed school compensation agreement. It is requested that Council refer the matter of establishing a TIF district by passage of a TIF ordinance to the appropriate committee. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move to refer the communication to Committee of the Whole as well.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Again, this is following up on what we said we'd do, so here we are doing it. All right, so any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 16, Ordinance 25, 2025, an ordinance to take effect immediately declaring improvement to real property within the city of Lakewood, Ohio to be of public purpose, exempting such improvement from real property taxation, requiring the owners of the property to make service payments in lieu of real property taxes, establishing an urban redevelopment tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of service payments, making related authorizations pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, and authorizing a service payment agreement in connection with the same.
Move to refer to Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 17, communication from Planning Director Byington regarding transit feasibility study.
Director Byington.
Thank you. Dear Council President Keppel and members of City Council, please find attached our third-party consultant, Iteris's Transit Feasibility Study Report dated October 1st, 2024. Recently, questions have been asked about this report by council members. We ask that you please refer this report to a committee of your choosing for such public discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is the one that I wanted to thank Assistant Director Boss on getting it on the docket. So, and the administrative team for helping him with that. So I appreciate that. So we've been asking about it and he had the thought to do it, which was remarkable. Okay, so I'm just going to move to receive and file this communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 18, communication from Planning Department regarding 2025.
That's not what I meant to do.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. Sorry, I was thinking that there was something attached. I apologize. Can we go? Let's go back. I'm going to make a motion to amend that to refer to Housing Planning and Development. Sorry.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Sorry, I was thinking there was another piece attached, but that was the whole point of getting it into the committee. All right, so we're going to move to refer the communication, item 17, to Housing Planning and Development. And you seconded. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 18, communication from Planning Department regarding 2025 Community Planning Services Program Grant Public Art Master Plan.
Planner Kramer.
Good evening, everybody. Dear Council President Keppel and members of City Council, the City of Lakewood sought support from the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission to complete a public art master plan for the entire city. A master plan will assess existing conditions, create a process and objective regulations for assessing new proposed art, allow the city to prioritize location and type of any new art, provide a framework for future public art and placemaking projects based on best practices and how they help achieve the community vision, and provide a document to be used for reference when applying for outside funding. The master plan will incorporate and build upon other recent public art efforts that have been undertaken. Each year, the City of Lakewood has a public art budget that is included in our capital budget, showing the dedication we have given to this topic. The city has already invested a significant amount of money in public art, but would like to give a more strategic direction going forward. Our past projects include Wager Park art, wall murals, bus shelter vinyl wraps, asphalt art, and this year traffic signal box wraps. The city has had some iteration of a public art program since 2015. For our future rounds of funding, we need a better understanding of where our public art is lacking and creation of a framework for the future. The best way to do this is through engaging the artist community, schools, businesses, property owners, and residents. The above referenced grant was awarded to the City of Lakewood in March 2025, and a contract is anticipated in July. The overall estimated cost of the project is $97,000, with the city's portion of the process being a 15% match, which ends up being $14,500. We respectfully request consideration of this resolution as a first step to completing the public art master plan.
Thank you. Were you wanting the resolution passed on first reading, or what was your timeline on that? Oh, Director Barrington, sorry.
Yes, thank you. We have not received the contract yet. Preferably, we would like to move forward and have it passed, but if the council would like to move it down to committee, we could work with that.
They did go through it at their board meeting July 10th. So it has been reviewed by their board. I just haven't gotten a response yet about when they can actually get us a contract.
However, that would probably be before we come back from recess, correct? But, yeah, okay.
Madam President?
Councilman Bullock.
So one approach might be to refer this communication to a committee. And Ms. Kramer, thank you for being here. Thank you for the smart planning involved. It will surprise no one that some of us care about this and have opinions about the matter. And in fact, we learned earlier tonight that you will have soon 2 giant blank canvases right at the gateway of Lakewood at Warren and Lakewood Heights Boulevard to bestow with all kinds of public art, which perhaps could be partly murals, but also a lot of other things.
We got thoughts.
So I think it's needed. There's a lot to talk about, even if maybe it were to be simply an update from the Public Arts Board, from yourself, others that you're working with, City Council. I think it would be well received if there is a chance for a deliberation. Dare I even say some input from council or our constituents to contributing to the shaping of the Public Arts Master Plan. There was quite a good task force final report that helped launch us years ago, and even before that, Councilwoman Marks and then Citizen Councilman Evans, or Brian Evans, with the Beck Center had a bunch. So there's a lot to draw upon, and we could kind of reactivate and dust all that off. But I think I agree with your points that it's time to be strategic and perhaps elevate the approach that we've done. I always say it's been a quiet success, a blossoming of color and value all over the community. I'd like to see us doing that more consistently, and also maintaining the ones that are appealing. Just saying. So perhaps, Council President, that's one approach where, regardless of how we dispose of the following resolution, we could reserve the chance for a City Council deliberation.
Sure, I think that's a valid approach. I had Vice President Baker next, and then I'll go to you.
Yeah, thank you, President Keppel, and thank you, Planner Kramer. I think this is excellent for all the reasons that Councilman Bullock just said. I do think that one way we might be able to pass tonight without referring to committee is if we can get a commitment from the administration that 2 members of council would be on the, assuming there's going to be some advisory board or something that advises the master plan process. And so I think if 2 members of council, the administration lets us know that that would be amenable, then we'd ask those members of council to kind of feed us back information, kind of like the zoning refresh project, where we get periodic updates and maybe even a review in committee about what's going on. I think that may be a good process to follow.
Yeah, I think, as usual, the planning department's ahead of us on this one, but Planner Kramer, can you?
Sure. So we did speak with Council President Keppel about this. We spoke with Mayor about this, about who we wanted to have on our internal project team. So we're going to have a couple of different strategies with this. We'll have an internal project team who is largely based off of city employees, so myself. Director Gordon will allot somebody from his team. If he would like to have somebody from his team, you were included in the email. So
what is art, Director Gordon? What is art? Define it.
He's busy, so we assumed he'd want to delegate somebody. We've also asked somebody from the chamber to be a part of that team, as well as somebody from Lakewood Alive. I have 2 representatives from my Public Art Advisory Board joining us, the board chair, Dave Robar, and she's not a vice chair, she's just a board member, Gina DeSantis. So I do have 2 members from that group. I can't say offhand if those were mayoral or council appointees, I'm not sure. But and then after talking with President Keppel, she recommended Councilman Evans join us, as he was the former president of that board, the board chair of my board. So he was a pretty big part of us getting that off the ground. So, and I know Councilwoman Marks has been really involved with a lot of the art going on in the community. So I'm happy to hear anything you all have to opine on it.
Great, thank you. All right, so why don't we do this? Why don't we, oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Hamilton.
It's okay. It was just, thank you, President Keppel. It was just a clarifying question that this is just a resolution to accept the grant, correct? Okay, that was it. That was just a clarifying question, like, but I love Vice President Baker's comment about ensuring that council has some, a voice on this as well, so thank you.
Yeah, I think, like with the zoning code refresh, although possibly this is, I don't want to, say that zoning isn't exciting, but this is more interesting probably to more resident council without needing explanation. And, some of us have art backgrounds, so we're very interested. So let's just plan maybe, Councilmember Evans, if we can, and Planning Department, kind of how we've done with the zoning code refresh, if we can just come back to us as you work through the process and give us periodic updates, and I'm sure we'll be reaching out with thoughts as well.
Sure. That project team will meet once a month. So again, Councilman Evans is invited to all those meetings once a month internally.
Great. You can put reports on the docket if you want. Great. All right. So let's do this. So I'm gonna move to receive and file the communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Thank you very much for your work on this. Exciting to see. On the motion to receive and file the communication, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 19, Resolution 2025-37, a resolution to take effect immediately, authorizing the Director of Planning and Development to accept a grant from the Cuyahoga County Planning Commission to complete a public art master plan, estimated at $83,000, which requires a 15% match.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 20, communication from Fire Chief Fairbanks regarding the sale of retired rescue boat.
Chief Fairbanks.
Thank you. President Keppel and council and members of City Council, with the replacement of our 2012 Ribcraft rescue boat, we have been in the process of retiring this asset that has served the city of Lakewood for more than 12 years. In that process, we have been approached by municipalities interested in acquiring our former rescue boat. One of those municipalities is the city of Lorraine and its fire department. The United States Coast Guard ceased operations at the Lorraine station earlier this year, and the Lorraine Fire Department is in desperate need of a watercraft asset. As a result of 2 drowning incidents this summer alone, the Lorraine Fire Department has expressed great interest in purchasing Lakewood's former rescue boat. This direct sale of the former rescue boat deviates from the standard City of Lakewood practice of selling surplus equipment through public auction. While public auction is an adequate option for most surplus assets, I believe the dire need of another Lake Erie community would be better served through a direct sale of such a specialized piece of equipment. I respectfully request that Lakewood City Council approve of the sale of our retired rescue boat to the City of Lorraine for the sum agreed upon by both municipalities. I also respectfully request this be passed on first reading based on the time-sensitive nature of Lorraine's Fire Department and their need for placing a maritime rescue asset in the service. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll first move to receive and file the communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. And thank you, Chief Fairbanks, for giving me a heads up about this last meeting. And unfortunate that Lorraine is in this situation, for sure. Further discussion on the communication? Councilman Bullock.
Thanks, Madam President. It's very reasonable. Happy to accept your recommendation and move swiftly. Can you refresh our memories on Lakewood's existing fleet? So this is a retired boat. I think we only have one, but maybe we have 2 boats. And is our new boat
Currently,
in service?
Yes, the new boat is in service. It is docked in the Clifton Lagoons for quick access for us to go up the river or out into the lake. This retired boat is sitting on its trailer at Station 1. We did have Lorraine's Fire Department administration come out. We provided them pretty much a disclosure list of here are the mechanical issues with it. We were able to take them out on it briefly just to show them its capabilities. They went back, spoke with their administration as well, and we have agreed upon the $10,000 price tag that is listed in the ordinance. I think there was anything else. I did follow up with them. Their Board of Control did approve them to move forward, so they're pretty much in a holding pattern waiting for us.
And I seem to recall there was COVID delays, but we're obviously through that in getting our own boat, or maybe it wasn't COVID, but
The COVID delays and the manufacturing, that's more on the fire engine and ambulance side of things. Those still exist. They're still taking orders, but the delay is still there.
I just remember your predecessor, Chief Dunphy, had wanted to get a new boat in place, and it seemed like that was delayed. I also remember your predecessor, Chief Dunphy, was going to offer city council members a review of the outfalls on the Lake Erie Cliff and a demonstration. I don't know if that's still COVID delayed or that's still something
that's still something we offer to our, our engineers need to go out to assess all of those. So whenever that happens, we do send the qualified crew out. They spent several months training on this new watercraft, so they will go out when it's needed, just to make those assessments.
I think that was a skillful evasion of my hint, but thank you.
I got
You've
you.
answered the question. Thanks. All right.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? All right, so on the motion to receive and file the communication, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 21, Resolution 2025-38, a resolution to take effect immediately authorizing the Director of Finance to sell a 2012 Ribcraft rescue boat to the City of Lorraine for $10,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 22, communication from Fire Chief Fairbanks regarding neighborhood paramedic program update.
Chief Fairbanks.
President Keppel and members of City Council, the Lakewood Fire Department respectfully requests an audience with Lakewood City Council to present an annual update regarding the neighborhood paramedic program. Firefighter paramedic Oliver Harper will be presenting data on program usage, its progress, initiatives, and potential needs of the program moving forward. Please refer this request to the appropriate committee of council's choosing and coordinate with my office to ensure availability of firefighter paramedic Harper. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking public safety. It could go health and human services too, so, but I'll move to refer to public safety.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, unless the Councilwoman Marks and Schubig want to arm wrestle for it. No? Okay. All right. Thank you for bringing this. Actually, it would be great to get that report, and we always hear great things about the paramedic program, so excited to have that. All right. On the motion to refer to public safety, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 23, liquor permit notice regarding Aladdin's Natural Eatery.
I remember seeing the other ones. Director Vargo, did we have Aladdin's too? No.
Council President, we'll need an extension on Aladdin's. And just for your edification, council receives notice from the Bureau of Liquor Control at the state. And oftentimes, our police department does not receive their notice from the state until 10 to 14 days later.
Oh.
And that's why sometimes they're coming in late. So we have 2 of the 3 in, and we'll get an extension if you allow it for Aladdin's. Thank you.
Sure. Chief Fisher.
Real quick, the paperwork that council gets has to be then returned for background information. So that's why we don't start. We need the background information before we can start our background, or before we can do our investigations. So we get the same thing council does, but then we get something later that actually lets us begin.
Okay.
So there is often a pretty sizable delay.
Okay. So that was my next question, is there something we can be doing to help with that?
It's all on the state. It's on the person getting the information back to the state so they can send it to us.
Okay, great. Okay. As if there's, fair enough. All right, so I'll just move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 24, liquor permit notice regarding Euro Gyro at 13429 Madison Avenue.
And Director Varga, we didn't have any reason to object, right?
That is correct, Madam
Okay.
President.
But as is our custom, I will go to Councilperson Strebig.
No objection.
All right, so I'll move to file without objection.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 25, liquor permit notice regarding DJT Industries at 18196 Sloan Avenue.
Vice President Baker?
I see, this is Sloan Pub, and I see no statutory reason to object.
All right, we'll move to file without objection.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. All right, we are now at general public comment. As always, when I call your name, come up to the microphone. You'll have up to 5 minutes. Address the chair, that's me. Avoid personalities. And if you're comfortable, please state your name and address for the record. All right, so first up is Pralika Reddy.
Hi, my name is Pralika Reddy. I live on 1324 Granger Avenue. I'm here today to ask Lakewood City Council to introduce and pass the resolution to protect trans rights that DSA has put forth. You know, last time I was here, it was Pride Month, and we were celebrating the Pride Month, but the trans rights are still being attacked, and they'll continue to be attacked. So I think the time is now for action. I understand the next step is to actually have a meeting with the community members from DSA and from Trans Ohio. So I request the council to actually hold that meeting sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, and actually, that had been my plan, but I did get a request to instead have that as a public meeting. And so what I'll probably end up doing is introducing the resolution at our first meeting in September, and then we can refer it to committee and have it in public committee. So just heads up. But following up on that, Matt, did you still want to come up and speak? Come on up.
All right, good night, City Council. So yes, the communication was from me to have that be a public meeting. Thank you for the progress we've made so far, but it has been about a few weeks since we've communicated. I just want to restate that, you know, as much as there's a lot of things that are happening on your plate, on administration, all these departments' plates that are important in their own right. I'm also very aware of the history of my people being told, like, yeah, your stuff is important too, but I've got this other stuff to do, so you can wait. But while that waiting is happening, things like today, I think, what is it, 988 suicide helpline. The Trump administration completely gutted the services for queer people who call that hotline. And that is a very crucial thing when you look at the suicide rate among folks who identify as transgender. So as these things, as protections are not in place yet, the attacks are still ongoing and will not stop and will not wait. And though this is the trans community is what, like less than 1% of the population, over close to 600 bills have been either introduced or are being passed around the country the last couple years. And any American that knows anything about government is like, it's really slow. 600 bills in the last couple of years. That is for a population of people, again, that is less than 1% of the whole population. That is insane, regardless of what you think, regardless of what your own opinions are of the trans community. That is just insane. So, yeah, I just want to restate the urgency of protecting this community. I believe that population number in Ohio is around 1%, and the distribution of like where those folks are likely to want to be in Ohio, Lakewood, Cleveland, has a large portion of those people. And they will be looking for communities like Lakewood that pride itself on being very progressive, being very welcoming, to be progressive and welcoming. So yeah, just wanted to restate those things, and thank you for that update. I was going to ask about that, so yeah, thank you.
And yes, thank you, and thank you for your advocacy. It's always putting out all the fires at the same time. So, for instance, recently one of those ones was I was working on the legislation that would have restricted access to books in public libraries regarding gender. So that's been a focus. So anyway, there's always a lot of fires to be putting out, but we'll keep plugging away, and it is something that I intend to have ready for the docket when we come back in September. So, all right. So next up, it looks like Josh left. Sorry, Josh, that I missed you. Alexander Benedict. Oh, he already spoke, I think. Yes, he did. Okay, he did on the other sheet. Okay. All right, that's everybody have signed in to speak. Did anyone else who did not sign in wish to speak? Okay. All right, so that's the end of public comment. Announcements. I do want to mention that we will have our next council community conversation actually tomorrow night. The Ward 2 Council Community Conversation is at Lakewood Public Library Main Branch on Detroit. That's at 6 p.m. And are we in the auditorium? Do you remember? Okay, well, we'll be in the library. You'll be able to find us. So in the library, that's open to anyone. You don't have to live in Ward 2. It's a nice way to just have more free-flowing dialogue with us, not so formal. Other announcements from council members? Councilman Bullock?
I have one letter from a constituent to summarize and for the record, because that person couldn't be here tonight. But I also wanted to, I think somebody said before, but I want to make sure to thank Public Safety and Public Works for a successful meltdown. Once again, I saw Director Gordon there. I saw Chief, I think I saw you too, Chief Fairbanks, and Sergeant Fioretto and Lieutenant Duiker and a bunch of folks. So thank you to, smooth, polite, wonderful night in Lakewood, and the safety is not to be underestimated, including the large trucks that secure the perimeter. That's all critical. So thank you for doing that. And everybody had a smile on their face too. There's a little bit of correspondence on this, but there's a constituent near the corner of Marlowe and Madison who, is pointing out what we've discussed a number of times, that the sight lines when you join Detroit or Madison, and in particular Madison, aren't great. And then cars are bigger these days, and so you park up on the intersection, and the only way for a motorist who's joining Madison or Detroit from the north-south street to see safely is to pull through the pedestrian crosswalk and even through the bike lane. And so the request from the resident is that we remove and not add additional parking spaces. In this case, we added one. So this is just another, for instance, related to everything we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, that every intersection has its particular conditions. What's the right balance? What's the right mix? Certainly, I'm sure the administration and council members all hear the need for more parking. At the same time, you've got this real safety concern. So I've already shared this with some of the administration, so we can just communicate offline about it. But it's a dilemma, and frankly, if we had unlimited resources, maybe what we would be doing is moving more parking spaces off street if we had capacity, so we could clear those sight lines and have the best of both worlds. I certainly would love that outcome. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Gordon, did you want to?
Sure. Thank you, President Keppel and Councilman Bullock. So one thing I would keep in mind about this intersection, I know I've had prior emails and prior conversations about this, is that the parking within that intersection is within compliance, and it is within code of the OMUTCD, which is the Ohio Manual for Traffic Control Devices. So the distance the parking space is from the crosswalk is within compliance. So I think that's something that we really need to keep in mind, that if you're going to go out there and remove things that are within compliance, that's pretty tough to do. If it wasn't within compliance, that's a little bit of a different conversation. I did receive the email. We did look further into it again, and it is still within compliance. So really, unfortunately, in this situation, nothing has changed there. But again, if it weren't within compliance and weren't within the set standards, then we would make the necessary adjustments. But just to be clear, in certain situations, such as this one, when the designated areas are where they need to be, there's not really much more I can do on my end, because it is within the necessary code.
Thank you. All right, other announcements from council members? Announcements from the administration? No? All right. Then no further business before council. Without objection, we are adjourned.